Gentle spring breeze, swinging swallows. Under the golden light of the sunset, sparkling and dazzling, Chuabu Lake looked like a huge and bright mirror. The light slightly waved on the surface of the lake. Cruise ships sailed smoothly and constant laughter resounded. A certain someone wondered what family the lady on the cruise was coming from. There were people on the landing decks admiring the beauties that were arriving on the boats. It was the moment of lucky hours and affectionate scenery that put people in a good mood as if they were in paradise. A boy with a hole in his shoe came along and the people on the deck started to make fun of his appearance and how he smelled. The boy was annoyed and wondered how he should have been a prince and how shameful it was for him to join the homeless gang. He wished that he got an old lady who wore a red armband to find him as he wanted to go home and regretted traveling to Taishan. The boy wanted to own a handsome face and a nice body. If he dressed up, he was sure that a bunch of idiots who were taunting him that only knew reading poems would not believe it. Expectedly, the product package was very important, and a plucked phoenix was not as good as a chicken. A jinling named Master Hao Yueba started grabbing the attention of the ladies on the boat, and they wondered who was the lucky bird who got him. It was Luo. She was the beloved daughter of Governor Jiangsu. The literary talent of her family was one rank higher than Master Hao's. The boy with the broken shoe wondered what a talented man was, and to come across a beautiful female writer was easy in his period. The girls were always troublesome. They were all the same no matter what the era. He judged Master Hao's abilities and how he could not make a girl fall for him for 2 years. He thought his flirting skills were 1,000 times better than Master Hao's. The boy wondered when he was in school. He was also a charming prince with fame and a professional chocolate receiver on Valentine's. Whether fighting or playing basketball, as long as it was about fighting, there was no way he wouldn't come in first place. And about studying, it was a piece of cake, something like morals and wisdom. Strength, good looks, and working or completely intelligent, talented or else. One glance at him and everyone could judge him based on these, until a certain crazy woman showed up. The boy's name was Wan Rong, and he had never met such an abhorrent girl since he'd grown up. Since the headmaster was her grandfather, the teacher automatically formed her guard, so Wan Rong had to postpone his plan for revenge. In any case, Wan Rong was alone in the world and had nothing to bother. Who would be proud except for him? People continued taunting Wan Rong and said that standing next to him would dirty their name. Wan Rong said that he would take revenge on them once he was capable. Wan Rong said the warm breeze comforted the journeymaker and made them think that Hangzhou was beyond Zhou. Someone from behind admired his poem, and Wan Rong in his head became excited. Wan Rong looked behind and there was a person who appreciated his poem. Wan Rong wondered if they were male or female. Wan Rong said that they could laugh if they wanted and not pretend to like the poem. Even their voices were different from a female. Wan Rong struggled to figure out the person's gender. Wan Rong started to stare, which made them really uncomfortable. One of them stopped Wan Rong. He wondered what he could judge about only by looking at the two, and his dignity would be on the line if he continued any further. The bright blue-eyed individual asked Wan Rong where he was from. Wan Rong couldn't control himself and started staring again and wondered if they came from Thailand since they were pleasant. The blue-eyed individual said to Wan Rong because he was not a native, and it was really interesting the way he talked. Wan Rong said he was from Jingchu land, and Lianghu was his hometown, which in fact was a lie since it was Hubei.
Do you want to know the name of this manga, along with all the manga names of the recaps we did in our channel? How about also the chapter numbers our recaps end? You can simply ask the names in our Discord community for free or become a donor to get them all in one place. You can either be a donor in Patreon or be a member in our YouTube channel. Just scan this QR code or go to the link in the description to become a donor. Moreover, becoming a donor automatically makes you a VIP member of our Discord server with over tens of thousands of members.
The blue-eyed person said that they had heard Jingchu was a land with many talents, but they didn't really believe it. But there was no doubt anymore after listening to Wan Rong's great poem. Wan Rong appreciated them and asked why they called him back. They replied that it seemed that the line in the poem that he chanted was the last sentence, and they wondered if there was a first line or not, and if they needed to hear it. Wan Rong said that a good poem was a kind of nature inspiration. As long as the first line expressed enough of his thoughts, he didn't need a last sentence. The blue-eyed person said that Wan Rong was the one that meddlesome, excellent, but not haughty, and he was much better than the romantic geniuses. Wan Rong said that although Chuland had many talented men, they didn't compare to Jiangnan in quality and quantity. The blue-eyed person said that what Wan Rong explained sounded new and strange, and it was the first time they had heard about it. They said that the line Wan Rong had chanted from the poem, he had great ambition. It was an advantage as well as a weakness that Jiangnan had many excellent men and pretty girls. Wan Rong didn't understand what they said. They explained that after the Taizu king founded the country, their dynasty paid more attention to literature than the military, especially Jiangnan. But at the time the country was in a tough time. The enemy was in the north continually encroaching upon a frontier, and they still didn't change it and didn't care about national security. The country was about to lose its independence and houses were about to be ruined. Still, no one was concerned about that. The Hua dynasty had no hope for the future. The current era was called the Hua dynasty. The emperor's surname was Zhao, and the capital was Shuntian. Foreigners in the northern frontier encroached on the border, and the Hua dynasty's army were at a loss. Fortunately, Hu's army was short of food, and it was also the end of autumn, so they had to withdraw to the grassland and prepare for another encroachment on the central plains. Wan Rong wondered that although he just arrived in that period, it was impossible to forgive foreigners that oppressed his compatriots. The blue-eyed person said that for a mighty nation, it was necessary to work with both literature and military, and no one of them could be ignored. The sight of fake peace with singing and dancing should be reduced. Wan Rong didn't realize a person like that would have such ambition and how they were full of enlightenment. At the moment, it had nothing to do with him since he was considering joining the beggar gang. The person asked Wan Rong if he had a reputation. He replied he never took an examination to get a reputation. They asked if Wan Rong had taken the military round, and they didn't even know where the examination took place. The person concluded that Wan Rong was not a reading book person, which triggered Wan Rong, and he thought how could he narrate such a line of poetry if he hadn't read any books, and he was a good student at a national gifted school. Wan Rong narrated another poem which said, "Rao row of the houses, the singing in Shi Hu when would end. The warm breeze comforted the journeyer, thinking Hangzhou was beyond Zhou." The blue-eyed person shook again and said that Wan Rong was second to none in the country. They said that they didn't mean to despise Wan Rong and asked him to not take it to heart. Wan Rong asked for their name, and they said it was Xiao Qingxuan. Wan Rong returned the favor and introduced himself. Wan Rong said that he was not a book person, in fact. In his view, although those romantic geniuses were not really good, the important point was not because of them. The people's lives were a barometer showing the national governing situation. What was seen were the results of the public opinion direction of the country. Xiao was confused and didn't understand Wan Rong. Meanwhile, he was distracted by their beauty. Xiao addressed Wan Rong as master, to which he said that they should not, since he disliked the title. Xiao again asked Wan Rong what he meant by public opinion. Wan Rong explained what was called the public opinion direction was also propagation. As long as one got the method to propagate, they would do whatever was asked of them. He continued and said that generally, although the country was in a tough time, talented men were still singing and dancing as if nothing was happening, and it was the mistake of the authorities. Xiao said the facts weren't the ones Wan Rong was imagining. They passionately said that the king was at his energetic age. He tried his best for the country. The northern border was encroached on again for such a big country like China, even though it was a challenge. That didn't mean they did not have a chance. The king was anxious about the future. He was trying to build up the nation's strength. If there was a war, they could fight for victory, to highly praise the spirit of the Hua dynasty. Wan Rong wondered if it was called adversity brings wisdom, and their thoughts were really extraordinary. And what was the energetic age that Xiao was talking about when the king had already been in his 60s, but he had only 2 princesses as his children? Wan Rong concluded that he shouldn't have an argument with Xiao, a royalist, and they might bite him if he kept talking about that. Wan Rong asked them to forget it since it had been a rule, pros and cons, right and wrong, and they should leave it for the next generation to comment. He said to Xiao if they placed their confidence in the king, he hoped their feelings were true, and he could bring peace for the people. Xiao asked Wan Rong if he didn't trust the king. Wan Rong was again consumed by their beauty, and thought that even though it had been only 2 days that we came into that world, Xiao had changed his gender identity. Wan Rong calmed down and asked Xiao to not discharge electricity on him, and he would teach them more maxims. Xiao hit Wan Rong in anger and said how dare he say such treason and immoral words. Wan Rong noticed an ear piercing on Xiao's ear and said that she was a girl and was relieved that his gender was still intact. Xiao thought she could see a preserving and talented patriot by the Xuanwu Lake, but Wan Rong was rude and impolite when he spoke. Wan Rong started acting weird and like a pervert. Xiao thought she made a mistake talking to him, and she had lived until that age, but no one dared to talk to her like that. Xiao warned Wan Rong that he would not get away too easily after bullying her, and she would kill him. Wan Rong told her to stop messing around, and a grown-up girl couldn't fight a boy, especially a master at quick fighting like him. Xiao prepared a slap attack, but Wan Rong dodged it barely. Wan Rong was baffled by what the attack was, and asked Xiao to stop messing around. Xiao started to bombard Wan Rong with multiple attacks. Wan Rong wondered if Xiao was abnormal, and asked her to stop since he just said that she was a little girl and there was nothing wrong with it. But that didn't stop Xiao. Wan Rong couldn't figure out what to do, and he didn't even know how to start a new life since he entered that world. She wanted to kill him just because he called her a little girl, which was unreasonable. It ended when it didn't even start, and Wan Rong didn't want to accept that kind of fate. Moral integrity was valuable, a beautiful girl was more worthy, but both were nothing compared to life. Wan Rong grabbed Xiao to make her stop the attacks, but she got more angry at Wan Rong touching her and slapped him again. Wan Rong started to tickle her, and when she let her guard down, he pushed himself into the water with her. Wan Rong didn't think that a girl like her from a wealthy family could swim, but Xiao could still manage to hit Wan Rong underwater as well. Wan Rong noticed that she had bound her chest and figured if she wanted to attack him, he would show her what a real pervert looked like, and he was defending himself justifiably. Wan Rong took his revenge by unwrapping Xiao's chest. Wan Rong started bleeding from the nose. Xiao thought if Wan Rong could stand being attacked and those hits made him seriously injured. Wan Rong figured he needed to hurry up or else he would die from bleeding too much, but Xiao didn't know how to swim, and if he ignored her, she could die. Wan Rong decided he needed to use the anti-personnel weapon and approached Xiao. Xiao wondered if she couldn't breathe, but Wan Rong still wanted to bully her. Wan Rong grabbed her and Xiao thought he was trying to save her, but he was just a pervert, and she kicked Wan Rong and stabbed him with an arrow. Wan Rong wondered if he tried to take her out of the water, but she still hit him. Xiao managed to get out of the water and got on the boat which her servant was on. She realized she misunderstood, and Wan Rong was trying to help her. Xiao called out for Wan Rong, but there was no movement in the water. She wondered if her arrow had applied poison or did she kill someone who was trying to save her. She started saying Wan Rong's name out loud and said she didn't know he was trying to save her, and her arrow was filled with poison, and he would die if he didn't come up. Under the water, Wan Rong was struggling and wondered how Xiao used the hidden weapon at the very end, and it seemed like she didn't intend to kill him at first. He couldn't live anymore. She wanted to kill him for just words. He saved her from the water, but she gave him an arrow, and she finally thought he was a pervert for real. Wan Rong managed to swim out and wondered if he looked like a bad person. Wan Rong could move as he had no strength, and he felt dizzy. Meanwhile, there were people dispatched to look for Wan Rong by Xiao, but she was told to leave him behind since he treated her badly. Xiao was sitting down looking down at the water, wondering if Wan Rong could just die like that, and she didn't want to owe him. The people told Xiao to stop waiting for him since even the skilled swimmers couldn't find him, and maybe the fishes ate him. Xiao asked her assistant to keep on the search and said she wanted to find him no matter what, and she had to see him dead or alive. She said she wouldn't forgive him that easily. She told her assistant that once they find him, she would kill him herself. Wan Rong was walking with no energy and ended up on a doorstep. A person came along and asked Wan Rong why he was like that, but he couldn't think straight and everything was blank to him. At the Hua dynasty, Jingling. New tributaries appeared in the great river of history after the Chu. The Han battle had ended. Xiang Yu established the powerful Chu dynasty. China had been devastated by wars for more than 1,000 years. The regime became corrupt and incompetent. Until the former Dasong dynasty's reign, more than hundreds of years ago, the last emperor whose last name was Zhao finally established a powerful Hua dynasty. At the moment, when the Hu from the north were planning to carry out the invasion, people of Jiangnan were still immersed in the festive atmosphere of singing and dancing, unable to sense the danger at all. Lin Wan Rong fell off Mount Tai during his school's autumn field trip, and suddenly he woke up in that era which was different from the original world's history. After being attacked by Xiao the previous day, he was honored to join the group of passers-by. Wan Rong was pushed over by a coming-by carriage which made his clothes dirty. He remembered and noticed his wound from Xiao did hurt that much. The previous day, an elderly man helped tend to Wan Rong's wounds. He explained to Wan Rong that he was infected with chronic muscle-softening poison. Although it would not kill him, but his body would get bruised and super weak and he would recover 12 hours later. The elderly man said that after listening to Wan Rong's experience, just based on his understanding of national affairs and his self-made poems, no one in that world could compare to him. He asked Wan Rong if he was sure if the surname of the owner of the arrow was Xiao. Wan Rong said it was since it was also engraved on the arrow. The elderly man was Wan Rong's uncle Wei, who took care of him when he first came to that world. Wan Rong didn't know anything about his past. Although he was blind and the dark holes in his eyes looked a bit scary, Wan Rong was very close to him. He told him about everything except his wound. Wei asked Wan Rong if he thought about what he told him last time. It was about Wan Rong being a son of another family since Wei kept helping others to find sons. Wei said that the family's strength was beyond his imagination. Wan Rong asked Wei to not do it since it was too weird, and was there really a rich man willing to become someone's father? Wei said that even the emperor had his own problems that he found hard to say out loud. He said to Wan Rong that he was chosen, he was brave, careful, and had his own way of perceiving things. Moreover, he was more thick-skinned than most people. Wan Rong said that Wei saved him, and he was his only relative in that world. Wan Rong could never repay his kindness. He could help him with everything, but he couldn't do that one. People said that filial piety came first of all good deeds, and the body, hair, and skin of the children were sacredly derived from the parents, and the relationship was gifted. Unless Wan Rong was a heartless person, he wouldn't accept other people as his parents. Wei said if Wan Rong was that persistent, they should forget it, and he would assign him to something feasible. He asked Wan Rong to go to the Xiao mansion in Jingling and be a servant there. Wan Rong asked Wei why he kept telling him to do weird things. Wei put his palm on Wan Rong's head and something happened. Wan Rong asked what Wei did, to which he said he applied Dafa initiation and passed on his gong power to him. Wan Rong couldn't believe he was given that power and asked if he could do martial arts, and Wei intentionally chose him and raised him for his martial arts prodigy. Wei said that he infused 70% of his gong powers, but Wan Rong's body even failed to absorb 10%. He told Wan Rong that his bones were already set, and he shouldn't think about being a hero in that life. Wan Rong apologized. Wei asked him to forget it, and it didn't matter if the Dafa initiation failed. He gave Wan Rong another gift. He passed a book to him and said he couldn't practice anymore, and as long as Wan Rong kept practicing the mind method in that book with pictures, he would definitely achieve success. Wei had suddenly vanished. Wei's voice came from outside the window and said there was no such thing as infinity in that world, and asked Wan Rong to take good care of himself. There was a servant selection contest, and Wei had already registered for Wan Rong. He told Wan Rong that the world was really complex, and maybe if they met again, Wan Rong might even think about killing him. Wan Rong asked Wei what he was talking about, and asked him to not leave. Without him, Wan Rong didn't know where to eat or drink freely. Wan Rong wondered if Wei was really something, and the voice disappeared too. Wan Rong was confused about if he was supposed to enter the palace by mistake, then get to the throne and relish the unrivaled power, if he was supposed to beat the best master and then get the power to unify the whole country. He figured at least he would get to live freely, and he would leave the palace after a year of work. A boy stumbled upon the smell of food. There was a young girl working with her father. The boy told the girl, who was her sister, that she was cruel for waking him up early for work, and if he was still his sister, and he doubted they were born from the same father, the girl noticed the wounds on her brother's face and asked if he got into a fight again, but the brother had run away. The girl wondered if her brother was going to participate in the Xiao family's servant selection contest while her father was busy selling stuff. The girl asked her father about selling stuff at lower prices. The father replied he was good at doing business, and she didn't know anything about it since she was still little. The girl asked him with optimism to help sell the maps, but the father said girls doing business with their faces exposed were not accepted in their society. People would laugh at them when she couldn't get married. The brother was standing behind assessing the situation and told his sister that their father was correct since she was a girl. He said that there were a lot of differences between boys and girls. He explained if he got into fights, they would look cool, and if her sister was to be in that situation, it would look wrong. He tried to calm her sister and asked her to not be mad at him since she was going to get married. If she did business, everyone in the streets would know her, and she wouldn't be able to find her partner. The sister said that she didn't want to marry someone she never met. The brother taunted her that she was not the one deciding all that and he was different. When he would grow up, he had the right to choose who he wanted to marry. The brother's name was Chao. The sister told her brother thinks she knew about all that stuff. If she could marry someone she loved one day, she would treat him wholeheartedly. But at least she needed to know what he looked like. If she never met him, how would she love him? And how would she know if she could be loved back? People always said a woman became compliant to the one she married. Was that supposed to be true love? Was it because of studying with Sister Luo that she kept thinking trivially? The sister was so envious of Sister Lu. Her husband must have been chosen under utmost consideration based on her ideal type. Her class was obviously higher than hers. A girl from a family of commoners shouldn't expect those unrealistic things. The sister heard noise coming from outside. It was Wan Rong eating food and admiring the taste of natural food, and he was leaving without paying. The sister asked him if the food cost 3 cents. Wan Rong gave her 1 cent and told her that she could buy cosmetics. Wan Rong started admiring her beauty and told her dishes were delicious, and with her craftsmanship she could already fill her future husband's stomach with breakfast alone. The sister got confused and told Wan Rong that he didn't pay the remaining amount. Wan Rong paid her the full amount, and as he was about to ask her about the Xiao family, he was interrupted by the father. He asked Wan Rong if he was going to participate in the Xiao family's servant selection contest and tried selling him the road maps that cost 5 cents each. The father didn't hesitate to lower the price by 2 cents. Wan Rong asked why they had to make recruiting servants so important and were the jobs in that family widely sought for. The father said that Wan Rong was new to that and explained that the Xiao family was one of the richest families in Jingling City. Not to mention the servant salary, even the most mediocre slave earned 2 to 5 cents a month. The most important thing was that the family had no masters, and the eldest mistress was about to choose her husband. And if someone was lucky enough to marry her, it meant the entire Xiao family belonged to him. Wan Rong asked the father about what the eldest mistress of the Xiao family looked like. The father said that no one had seen her, but Mrs. Xiao was a great beauty, so he guessed the eldest lady was not bad. Wan Rong wondered if Mrs. Xiao was a great beauty, then 3 beauties of the Xiao family should be the reason why all those people were vying to be servants, and they haven't met the eldest lady. He couldn't let that opportunity be taken away, and must take advantage of that to earn a fortune first. Wan Rong pointed out that although the father was diligent, he wasn't very good at doing business. The sister asked if Wan Rong would help them in selling the maps, to which the father said that they couldn't trust an outsider. Wan Rong thanked the sister for her trust. Wan Rong asked a random person and offered him the map. Wan Rong said that he was so impatient that he bought 2 maps without further consideration. He wanted to sell one with the most reasonable price, which was 4 cents. Wan Rong said that the item was greatly sought and he had to take 5 cents just to have one from the father. The person pointed out that Wan Rong was selling secondhand stuff and he would pay 3 cents for it. Wan Rong agreed and said he would suffer the loss for their friendship and gave the map to the person. Xiao wondered why Wan Rong not only got a free map, but also earned a cent for nothing. Wan Rong explained to everyone that this was a marketing strategy, diluting costs to make profits. Everyone was very impressed. The father got overly excited and thanked Wan Rong, asking him to be on his side. The father asked for Wan Rong's name and said his last name was Dong Rende. Wan Rong said that it was a meaningful name and told his name and asked if Dong was interested in conquering the world with him. But he was just joking around and asked if he wanted to do business together. Dong said that he didn't have enough money and Wan Rong's business could be ruined if they joined. Wan Rong asked Dong to not get stressed and they had just met and he made a request like that all of a sudden. Wan Rong was happy that he was not treated as a scammer. Wan Rong said if the 2 of them did business together, all the capital would be spent by him and the profit would be divided 50-50. Wan Rong said that Dong had no money, so clearly he didn't have any motives to scam him. He continued and said people's hearts couldn't be measured by a ruler. Dong had seen his method and he believed Dong had a different approach. Dong said that Wan Rong got a deal and he was very talented. Wan Rong asked the most important question about it being true that only a few people have met the eldest Miss Xiao. Dong said that it was true and even Lady Xiao really saw her. Dong's daughter came to Xiao's mansion to sew garments, but she had to make an estimate using eldest Miss Xiao's old outfits. Dong forgot and he didn't introduce his son and daughter to Wan Rong, the son Qingshan and the daughter Chao. Wan Rong asked them to stop calling him master and asked them if they had seen a master with torn shoes. Wan Rong asked Dong that the location was inconvenient for conversation and they should go home and talk about it. Qing asked Chao why Wan Rong kept looking at her like that. They continued having random conversations and eventually got home. Wan Rong gave a bag of 50 taels to Dong, and he asked his reasons for doing so. Wan Rong said that why not since his net worth was all there and that was his sincere intention. Moreover, he trusted Dong. Dong was very thankful to Wan Rong. Wan Rong explained that the first move was to dispel the rumors about the eldest miss. It was all about her and her little secrets. From big stuff like eating, wearing, walking, living, doing small stuff like liking double eyelids or single eyelids, they all had to be fixed. If they knew, they should write about it, and if they didn't, they should make it up, and if they couldn't make it up, they should guess, and if they couldn't guess, they could write anything they could think of. Dong asked why they had to fix those. Wan Rong said it was to find a way to help the eldest miss. Qing figured out that Wan Rong wanted to flirt with her and asked if he succeeded in that Wan Rong should bring her to them. Wan Rong said what was Qing thinking, and what if she was not what she was rumored to be in reality? Moreover, his concept of love was mature, noble, healthy, and he wouldn't be interested in her. Wan Rong said to Dong when he was finished editing the document, he should find a good handwriting person to jot it down. Wan Rong looked around at the back, and Chao was staring at him with her huge eyes. Wan Rong asked her if she wanted to try and said there was no need to go out and hire people, and they should let Chao do it. Qing said, although her sister used to take a few lessons with Miss Luo, it was really just for fun. Chao said that they should let her father go to the street to find a master to write it, as she would ruin everything for Wan Rong. Wan Rong asked her why want Chao to be confident in herself. He wanted to see her excitement, energy, and confidence in her eyes. Wan Rong took the name of the supreme commander of that world conquest to decide she was the one to do it. Dong said that she was just a girl and she would not make it. Wan Rong reminded Dong how he wanted to agree with everything he said and told Chao he was looking forward to hearing about her victory. Wan Rong said that he was going to pay a visit to Xiao Mansion. Qing asked to lead the way as he would go see some brother on the way. Dong got angry at him and told him he would get into fights again. Dong said that he didn't read books and fight all the time. Wan Rong tried to make Dong understand and said there was a proverb that said prevention was not as effective as understanding. Instead of forbidding him, it was preferable to advise him what battles should and should not be fought, and how to fight less and minimize harm and loss. Wan Rong asked Qing to find him when he fought in the future, and he would think of a way for him so that no one could harass him and his friends again, nor allow anyone to attack his father and sister. Wan Rong assured Dong that Qing would gradually fight less and less. Xiao said that she was afraid that the fights were getting less and less, but the range was getting bigger and bigger, and asked Wan Rong to teach him well and not let him learn bad habits. Wan Rong said to leave it to him, and Qing and Wan Rong left. Wan Rong asked Qing if he always fights alone. Qing said that sometimes he went with Li Beidu. Wan Rong asked those of them who didn't like to see other people get bullied how many there were. Wan Rong said there were a few, but they were scattered across the city. Wan Rong said that was the reason they got bullied, and they were to be held accountable for it, because there was no one to be the leader of all of them. Moreover, being alone, no matter how brave he was going to get bullied. Wan Rong explained that there was strength in unity. Qing should gather them and become their boss so that he could possess great power. Then there were a lot of problems that he didn't need to handle in person, which meant he no longer needed to be involved in any fights. Qing understood and started running away. Wan Rong asked where he was going to, which he said he was going to gather them, and in the future, he wanted to become the boss of Jingling City. Until then, Wan Rong could be the boss. Wan Rong wondered what a simple boy he was fighting to protect his sister. There was no point in fighting unless he became a leader, but nonetheless, he was a simple kid. Wan Rong had arrived at the selection competition, and it was very crowded. If Wei wouldn't have registered himself, he would have to wait for an eternity. Everyone in the crowd was shocked at the beauty of Lady Xiao. An announcement was made, appreciating everyone for the Xiao family. They would respect the principles of openness, fairness, and justice in their recruitment of servants. The announcement asked the crowd to line up in order of number, and not jostle. Wan Rong looked at Lady Xiao and wondered what a gorgeous beauty she was, and she didn't look like a mother of two grown girls at all. He was not sure how many people envied the money and beauty of the Xiao family, who had survived only on the strength of the orphan and widow. He didn't know whether to appreciate their ability to feel sorry for them, and realized why so many people had signed up to be servants. Even if snakes died, they still had venom. If Wan Rong wanted to live in the world, he would have to rely on a big tree like the Xiao family. That was probably also part of Wei's intention. But Wan Rong suspected that one of the persons in line behind him successfully entered the Xiao mansion and fooled that family's mother and daughter. Wan Rong, as a decent youth, couldn't stand that. He didn't know anything, but he was still concerned about others. Though he was not a superman of justice, making money should be his focus. Wan Rong was back at Dong's place, and he admired Chao's handwriting. Chao asked Wan Rong to hire someone else for it again, but he was busy reading and asked her if she wrote all of it. Chao started to panic and asked Wan Rong if she did a bad job and started crying and apologizing to Wan Rong. Wan Rong said she didn't mess it up, and it was good. In fact, it was beyond his imagination, and he was really pleased. He said not only she did what he told her to do, but she did a bit extra as well. Wan Rong said that people may not have powers or money, but they must have confidence. If one didn't respect himself, no one in the world would respect them. Wan Rong asked Dong how good her daughter was, and how he didn't believe in her. Dong said that he got it, and in the future, he would listen to her. Wan Rong asked Chao to bring him a graphite ingot, to which they asked what it was for. Wan Rong explained he called it super invincible thunder and lightning, a mix of happiness and softness, unpredictable change, convenience, and simplicity of use, since wood or wood-based products experience incomplete combustion, or were thermally dissociated in the absence of oxygen to form. Wan Rong thought that it had been long since he last drew, and what if he messed it up? Wan Rong started moving the graphite ingot and ended up with an accurate sketch of Lady Xiao. Wan Rong explained sketching to the both of them that it was a simple drawing method in his hometown, and he hadn't sketched in a long time, so his hands were stiff. Both Dong and Chao were impressed. Chao pointed out that there was some dirt on Wan Rong's face and approached to clean it with a napkin, but Wan Rong panicked and asked her he would do it himself. Wan Rong explained that he would later combine the document both of them wrote with the eldest Miss Xiao's sketch, then asked Chao to trace it again with a brush before binding it into a book. Dong said that he was going to the printing factory. Wan Rong noticed Chao's hands were shaking while holding a brush and reminded her what she said before and relaxed. If she failed, she could just take another try. Chao tried again, and Wan Rong asked if she was having fun. Chao said that she was, and it was interesting. Except for the usual housework and weaving, she had never done anything like it. Chao said that the portrait of Lady Xiao was beautiful, and it would be great if she had one too. Wan Rong said that it was easy and he would draw her one later. He asked if there were also self-portraits of him if she wanted as well. Wan Rong asked Chao that she couldn't marry someone else, otherwise he would never know where to find skillful hands like her. The quiet atmosphere, Chao began in her thoughts about the warm ray of sunshine. Time passed quickly. The person wore worn-out clothes, wore a strange hairstyle, and talked interestingly unlike others. It was like he had fallen from the skies and appeared in her life, causing her eyes to be unable to leave his gaze and her ears to be continually looking for what he said, one page after the other, the warm afternoon. She wished the time went slower. Xiao had prepared lunch and asked Wan Rong and Dong to take a break. Wan Rong said that Xiao was not only good at drawing, but she appeared to be a promising chef too. Dong asked Wan Rong what they should do next with the handwriting and paintings that they had finished. Wan Rong said to send them to the press, and Dong should feel free to print as many as he wanted. However, the manuscript should not be leaked to the public. No one else should read it, or else it would be difficult to earn money. Qing pointed out that Xiao had changed a lot since Wan Rong arrived. Xiao asked if she had become more helpful, to which Qing said that as soon as she caught Wan Rong on her sight, she would become a stupid girl. The next morning, Xiao asked Wan Rong about dropping by the house every day for lunch. Dong, in a very awkward way, told Xiao that it was improper for him to do that, and he should also have dinner with them every day, and he could even sleep there. Dong said that he had spent the night watching the printing. It had been done, 500 copies in total. Wan Rong checked Dong's work and appreciated it. Dong asked about how much they should sell each book for. Wan Rong said overcharge was not necessary, and 5 taels of silver for each would be perfect, which shocked everyone. They asked Wan Rong if he was going overboard. Wan Rong told them it was a reasonable price, since bargaining has not been initiated yet. Xiao asked if anyone was willing to buy such an expensive book. 5 taels of silver were enough for a plebeian family to afford themselves for half a year. If the talented couldn't afford to buy their books, they would unwittingly ruin their red thread of fate. Wan Rong said that Xiao Mansion was looking for servants and not a son-in-law. Those having the intention of buying that book were not considered good people at all. The poor who really wanted to make a living by working as servants, and those with real talents wouldn't pay attention to such books. Also, if the Xiao family could easily be conquered with a mere book, then it was a shame for them. In short, they were going to earn money from those evil-minded people who had a lot of money to burn. All they wanted was the information needed to carry out their evil plans. They didn't even care about paying through the nose for a book, as long as it was serving their purposes. Moreover, Wan Rong asked if they knew what was called profiteering. If they sell those precious books at the moment, others would suspect them of smuggling. It was the last registration day at the Xiao Mansion, so they needed to head out to sell the books. At the Xiao Mansion, it was very crowded. Dong made the first move, nervousness showing all over his body. He asked a random stranger if he wanted to buy a confidential document. Dong was dragged away by Wan Rong, and Qing warned the stranger if he told anyone he would get beaten. Dong asked what they should do. Wan Rong said there was nothing to worry about and he would take the lead and he needed someone to support him. Xiao said that she would be willing to help, but she couldn't. Wan Rong grabbed her hand and told her that she could, and that was what he expected to hear from her. Wan Rong put on a disguise and asked a stranger that they were selling special books about the eldest Miss Xiao and if he would like to have one. The stranger was sold and asked if there were color copies, since black and white were not pleasing to the eye. Wan Rong said not to judge the book by its cover and that a small book could help him tie the knot with the lady. Wan Rong explained that the book was an extract that had been leaked from the Xiao family's historical record, and it contained the secrets of winning Lady Xiao's heart. He said that he had an acquaintance who was an immediate servant at Xiao Mansion, and he had to pay through the nose to get the book from him. From his earlier observations, Wan Rong said to the stranger that he was a man of dignity who was endowed with noble temperament, and it was fate that they had met, and he would give him a special deal. The stranger asked Wan Rong for his offered price, to which Wan Rong said 10 taels of silver were reasonable. Dong and the others were shocked how Wan Rong now doubled the price from before. The stranger hesitated as well, and Wan Rong was about to leave when Xiao came into the scene and pretended she was interested in buying the book for the asking price, which triggered the stranger, and he said he was the one who noticed it first, and he was the one who would buy it. The stranger bought the bait and left, and Wan Rong and the others made their first sale. It was as Wan Rong said, those spendthrifts were clueless and would buy anything. Other people noticed the stranger and his book, and there was a ruckus over who was going to keep that book. Wan Rong saw the opportunity and took it. After that, the registration place became more crowded than ever. People were asking all sorts of questions from Wan Rong, and he was making up stories which people were buying easily. Money was flooding in and books were flushing out, and they earned 5,000 taels of silver. Dong and Qing went to the private bank to deposit the money for safekeeping. Wan Rong and Xiao were sitting beneath a tree, and Xiao asked Wan Rong if he worked hard and he should have some snacks. Xiao asked Wan Rong if he wanted him to print more books. Wan Rong said it was not worth mentioning at all, and explained that the pirated copies of their book were being put up for sale at a much lower price, and they wouldn't earn more from the business. That was why it was time to stop. Wan Rong forgot how hungry he was, and appreciated Xiao's cooking, and said that her future husband would be the luckiest man in the world. Xiao told him to stop teasing her, and Wan Rong was an intelligent man, so many girls couldn't wait to tie the knot with him. Wan Rong said that he was still a single young man who liked traveling just to have fun, who knew if one day he could tie the knot with eldest Miss Xiao. Wan Rong said that he was joking, and she was not his type. Xiao said that she had fun learning business with Wan Rong. She believed that talentless girls were the lucky ones. They just needed to grow up, get married to a man, and learn how to be a good wife. That was how their lives were meant to be. But she had changed her mind. A girl of humble birth like her could never be compared to those noble ladies out there. But even in her dreams, she never expected that apart from washing and cooking, she would get a chance to try out such interesting things. She said Wan Rong was the only one willing to trust her, and encouraged her to do things that she'd never done before, and he even assigned her the important task. She was really grateful to him for that, and said he was a really kind-hearted and excellent man, and chatting with him was the greatest pleasure. She started crying and said that one day, Wan Rong would become part of the Xiao family, and they wouldn't get the chance to chat again. And if he fell for eldest Miss Xiao, he would forget who Xiao was. Wan Rong said that there was no way he could forget her. Xiao asked Wan Rong how he could know for sure that eldest Miss Xiao wouldn't fall for him. Wan Rong said of course she would fall for him, and how could she ignore a talent like him? He said if one day she really does come after him, he would reject her without any second thoughts, and he would tell her that he already got someone he loved, and she was Xiao. Wan Rong said to Xiao to be careful since she was innocent, and other men could take advantage of her naivety. Xiao said that she didn't know what other men were like, but she knew that Wan Rong was not a bad guy, and left. Wan Rong told himself that there was no one better than him, and he couldn't resist the temptation of sleep after eating and fell asleep under the tree. His sleep was short-lived, as he was disturbed by a certain individual. Wan Rong asked who dared to disrupt his dream. There was a girl who told Wan Rong that he was the one who was selling books. She asked him about who gave him the rights, and she was going to confiscate all the money he made and the remaining books. Wan Rong told her that he disliked people who treated him harshly. The girl said she was joking, and her big brother asked her to buy him the book and also ask some questions. Wan Rong said that her attitude changed fast, which was sensible, but the book was the final limited edition. He wanted 25 silver taels, and asked the girl to ask him anything. The girl bombarded Wan Rong with several questions about the book, who wrote it, if Wan Rong was the only seller, when did he meet the eldest Xiao, and etc. Wan Rong asked 10 silver taels for one question. The girl said she had never met someone who wanted money for questions. Wan Rong told her that was his job, and if he didn't charge money, his ancestors would strike him down. Also, if someone else knew the answer, she could go ask them. No matter what, Wan Rong's price for an answer was not a scam, and she could buy it or leave it. Wan Rong said since she was a little girl, she wouldn't have any money, so she should just go home. The girl was enraged and gave him a few pennies and told him to give answers. Wan Rong said he would tell her, but the answers were long, so she should take notes. Wan Rong messed around with her and faked about giving out answers. The girl asked for her money to be returned. Wan Rong said she really thought he didn't know that she was a spy of the Xiao family. The girl left, warning Wan Rong that she would come back. Wan Rong analyzed that the servant recruitment for the Xiao family being so big was just for the sake of hyping their business. They made so much money themselves, but didn't want others to have a share, and that was too much. Wan Rong began to daydream about having lots of money and girls by his side, and thought he could slack off in the morning and hang out with Xiao at night until there was a trap thrown in his way, and he was captured. Wan Rong started to scream and asked to be released, and he knew where they brought him. It was the Xiao mansion. He said that the Xiao mansion's force was so big, yet they even used poison against a small seller like him. The captors were the girl from before and an old man. The girl ordered her beast-like dog to pound Wan Rong, and the dog obeyed. The old man called the girl a second miss, and asked her to not be angry, and Wan Rong should be slowly interrogated. The girl said that she didn't want to be interrogated but wanted to teach Wan Rong a lesson, and asked her dog to lick him to death. Wan Rong said that they didn't have the guts, and after a few years Lin Wan Rong would be a stronger man. The old man asked the dog to stop his licking. The old man asked Wan Rong if he was Lin Wan Rong. Wan Rong said that it was his only name in that lifetime. The girl said that she didn't care what his name was, and asked her dog to bite again. The old man stopped her again and said that Wan Rong was the person Wei had arranged with special instructions, so he couldn't ignore misusing lethal methods on him, and if the madam knew, she would punish her. Wan Rong thought that he didn't expect Uncle Wei to be so influential, and it was a great idea to use his name. The girl was still persistent about teaching Wan Rong a lesson. The old man said he was supposed to report back, to which she said if anyone snitched on her, she would ask to order her dog on them. Wan Rong said to her that there was a limit to being willful and abusing her authority on him. Wei and her mother wouldn't forgive her. As a successor of Wei, Wan Rong said heaven had sent him to save the Xiao mansion's business, yet she dared to offend him, and it was too late to apologize. The girl called Wan Rong a fraud and said her mother and sister were capable, so their family didn't need other people's help. She asked the old man if Wan Rong was chosen to be a servant by Wei, which he was. She said that if Wan Rong couldn't pass the family's exam, then it would be pointless no matter what relationship he had. The old man agreed and said she could do whatever she wanted to him if Wan Rong failed. The girl said to let him take the test immediately and use the hardest one. If he couldn't pass, she would order her dog to bite him. Wan Rong complained that he had to take the test suddenly since he didn't learn anything. Xiao at her home wondered if it was late and Wan Rong had not returned. Qing had looked outside the Xiao mansion, but couldn't find him and thought if she should go to the officer. A person in the dark started to creep up on her. She panicked and hit the person with a stick. Turns out, it was Wan Rong in a really bad shape. Wan Rong said his face had become so swollen, and it was because he got licked by the dog so much that he got allergic to saliva. Xiao said that people from the Xiao mansion were evil, and they could make their own money and asked Wan Rong to not work for their family anymore. Wan Rong said that he had already passed the test. A little while ago, the girl and the old man at the mansion began the test, and the first was a written exam filled with questions. Surprisingly, Wan Rong knew the answer to every question they had to throw at him, and the questionnaires became helpless at some point. The old man asked the second miss to look at Wan Rong's answers and how good his handwriting was. Wan Rong said that he just sold the books for someone else, but in business, integrity was gold. He had promised that master that he would not reveal information about him. He could not keep even a little promise. Then how could their family be at ease to hire him? At the final interview, the judges asked Wan Rong about his career plan when coming to the mansion. Wan Rong said it was to obey every word of Lady Xiao, eldest miss and second miss. Except for the three of them, he wanted to admire all the ladies at Xiao Mansion. It was to bring a new breath of fresh air to the mansion. The judge said that the three of them, who were responsible for the mansion's garden, kitchen, and wood shop, had been looking for a talented youth like him. The judges said that Wan Rong had been bought and asked him to sign a life contract, and he would officially become part of the Xiao Mansion. Wan Rong asked if Wei didn't tell them about it, and a genius like him only sold knowledge, not his body, so he would only have 8 hours of work. They could consider him entering the Xiao Mansion as a contractor. The judges didn't know what a contractor was, but said to ask about it from the higher-ups. They came back, and Wan Rong's request was approved by the higher authority. The girl said he could sign whatever contract he liked, but once he entered the mansion, she would take good care of Wan Rong. Back at Dong's, Wan Rong was feeling down about the situation and said every move he made turned out bad for him. Xiao said that it had been hard for him and he would have to go to work for the Xiao Mansion the next day, so he should rest. Wan Rong had a dream about the dog, and after a while a person came and started to take off Wan Rong's shirt. The moon was shining, stars were sparse. The entire jingling city was immersed in peace and tranquility. It was a beautiful night. Wan Rong was sleeping the whole time. It was Xiao who took his shirt off, and she told him she mustn't wake Wan Rong up since it had been a tiring day. The reason Xiao was doing that was that she made a new outfit for Wan Rong and she wanted him to try it. She decided to secretly put them on him while he was asleep. She covered her face so she couldn't see Wan Rong's body. Xiao thought that Wan Rong had worked so hard, and she had to take good care of him. Xiao managed to put the outfit on Wan Rong as he got new shoes, shirt, and pants. Xiao wondered what she would do tomorrow, as Wan Rong would leave for the mansion, and she wouldn't be able to see him again. On the other side of Jingling City, the second miss didn't want to sleep as her servants told her that she would be a bad girl if she didn't. The second miss asked when her sister was coming home and where her mother was. The servant said that she was having a meeting in the council hall to study the development of the Xiao family. The servants asked the second miss to sleep again if they wanted to go out. The second miss asked if they were afraid of staying in her room. The servants started to panic and they said they weren't afraid and they just wanted her to go to sleep. The second miss said that they had worked so hard, and as a token they could take the basket of snacks from the cabinet. One of them rushed to get it while the other two tried to stop her. The basket fell on the head of one of them and it was filled with frogs and insects. The second miss was having a laugh and wondered that all the maids would be transferred in 2 days, and the guy who she couldn't mess with was the most obnoxious. She wondered if the guy looked nasty but interesting, and tomorrow he would enter the mansion, which was her domain. She giggled and said she would take care of him, and she was going to have a new toy. There was no one playing with her, so she would play by herself. Meanwhile, Wan Rong was having dreams about being a handsome knight. Xiao woke him up and asked him to have breakfast since he needed to go to the mansion. Wan Rong appreciated the outfit Xiao made for him. Xiao said that in the future she would be responsible for making him clothes. Wan Rong thanked her and said she was kind to him, and next time she should let him try them first. Wan Rong asked for his leave and left for the mansion. It was crowded again, and Wan Rong thought they all gathered for the test and it looked like they were ready for it. He wondered why they didn't just chill and drink coffee. A man excused himself to Wan Rong and asked if he introduced himself. His name was Qian Feng, and he was there to take the servant test and asked for Wan Rong's name. Wan Rong wondered why Feng was looking for him, and if he was one of the guys who purchased the pamphlets and came for revenge. Feng said that he was a big fan and asked Wan Rong for an autograph. Wan Rong said that Feng must have mistaken him for someone else. Feng said that Wan Rong's heroic deeds of single-handedly challenging the recruitment for servants and passing it with the invincible score of 100 had been spread among the candidates. Feng told Wan Rong to look around and told him they were all fans. Everyone was cheering Wan Rong on. Wan Rong told the crowd that the exams were very hard and they should be careful to prepare for it, and his autographs would be on sale after the recruitment was over. 10 taels of silver for a signed hardcover plus his own autograph. Wan Rong tried to leave, but Feng stopped him and told him he was going the wrong way, and the main gate was not for servants who arrived the first time. He said that it was common sense of lowly people, and it was understandable when a genius like Wan Rong didn't know about it. That was the case for high-level households. The first day servants entered the mansion, they had to go through a small gate, which meant that they were inferiors. Wan Rong said that the small gate was fine, but the one he pointed out was too small and looked like a dog hole. Wan Rong said that there was no way he was going to enter that place through a dog hole, and he wanted to enter through the main gate. Feng tried to stop him and asked him to not run around. The guards at the main gate started to shout at them both and said they didn't know the rules and yet they dared to be a servant, and said that there were many rules of the mansion and servants and dogs entered through that gate. Wan Rong told them that with their physiques, he didn't think that those two could fit through that hole. The guards said that they were medium-level servants, and that was the position they struggled to achieve. Feng tried to talk Wan Rong out of it and asked him to leave it. In order to maintain his parents, Xiao Feng tried to fight for the golden opportunity of being a servant in Xiao's mansion. On the day of the recruitment, he met an amazing person called Wan Rong. The person may have been a big talent who never suffered setbacks, and he was unwilling to enter the mansion through the dog hole. But everyone had their own destiny. When they wanted to become servants, they needed to accept such rules. Feng was going to persuade Wan Rong into getting through that hole, but at that moment, Wan Rong had shocked everyone at the scene and barged through the guards and opened the gate. The guards ran, crying for help. The crowd cheered on Wan Rong. He said from ancient times to modern times, there were still loathsome people who always looked down on others. They deserved to be punished every time he saw them. Wan Rong thought about what Wei got him into. He would absolutely leave that place after working for a year. Wan Rong started to roam around and noticed how big and nice the yard was. Meanwhile, a group of servants approached him and trapped him. Wan Rong said if they wanted to play games, they should bring it. Amidst the crowd, a person came along and said to the servants to beat Wan Rong until he gave them a sign. Wan Rong asked the person who he was. The person replied, he was the most handsome man in Xiao Mansion. A butler who was known as the leader of Xiao Mansion's servants and also a fashionista, Butler Wang. Wan Rong insulted him. Wang asked Wan Rong who he was and how dare he insult him in front of a crowd. Meanwhile, the second miss was observing everything hiding in the bushes with her dog and asked why it was taking that long for Wang to handle Wan Rong. Wan Rong kept on insulting Wang, which made him embarrassed. Wang said to Wan Rong if he wanted his life to be spared, he was to go to the big gate to dance hula and learn to bite like a dog. Wan Rong asked about the hula dance, to which Wang said it was the twisting kind of dance. Wang thought it seemed like he had to reveal his identity as a special investigator into servants of Xiao Mansion being arrogant for their owner's power and destroying the family's reputation, and apologized to a certain Uncle Fu. Wan Rong had heard it and asked if Wang was mentioning Uncle Fu, the gardener. Wang said that it was nonsense, and how could someone like Wan Rong know someone as old as Uncle Fu? Wan Rong said if he didn't believe him, he should ask him himself, and he was his chosen successor. Wan Rong turned around and saw the second miss, who quickly hid herself. Wan Rong said that he heard that the secret operation was run by a great lady at the top of Xiao Mansion. Second miss wondered if Wan Rong saw her, and how did he know she was peeking. Wang asked Wan Rong if he was sent by Wei. He panicked, and Wan Rong started to taunt him and asked him if they could work together in the future, and asked Wang about who sent him there. Wang said what he did earlier was just an April Fool's joke, and he diverted the attention of the crowd towards the hula dance. The second miss wondered how stupid Wang was, and how he ruined the plan. Wan Rong was impressed by the hula dance, and said that he would talk highly of Wang to the superiors. Wan Rong said he would go meet Uncle Fu in the garden to report on the work. Wan Rong knew he was successful in annoying the second miss. The second miss started scolding Wang and said her mother did not have any investigation plans. Wang was held by her dog and was crying. He apologized and said he didn't know anything. The second miss said the amount of dog food made from his body for the dog could be enough for about a week. Wang said that for the past few days he had been watching him every moment, and he was truly appointed by Uncle Fu out in the garden. He heard that the kid was very good at talking, and Uncle Fu must have been coaxed by him. Wang continued, while his head was in the dog's mouth, that Uncle Fu was one of the most skilled servants when he was young. Moreover, he would go to the madam and said they pulled him, and the younger ones had to suffer. The second miss said she knew what to do, and said they didn't need any clever trick, and she herself would give Wan Rong warnings. If he did not comply, he would let the dog give him deadly bites. She ordered the dog and went to look for Wan Rong. Wan Rong was surrounded by kids as he was telling them stories. As the dog was ready for an attack, the second miss held it back. She told her dog to stay quiet and listen for a while, and thought it was very interesting. Wan Rong was about to end the story, but the children insisted on continuing. Wan Rong thought that feudal society had no mercy on people's lives. Xiao Mansion didn't even allow the servants to have breaks. Chow was still waiting for him to take her out to rent a venue for opening a restaurant. Wan Rong tried to continue his story, but he was constantly being distracted by the children asking him questions. The second miss had enough of it, and she came out of hiding, told her dog to scare all the crowd away because they were not letting Wan Rong finish the story. Wan Rong thought those were his fans, and he couldn't let a troublesome kid mess things up. He screamed the second miss's name out loud, Xiao Yushuang. She told Wan Rong how dare he called her by her name and was about to tell the dog to attack, but Wan Rong said it was such a beautiful name. It was the name that was signed on his contract last time, and it was written beautifully. Yushuang said that no one had complimented her on the handwriting, to which Wan Rong said it was because they were jealous and didn't want to tell her. Yushuang's face lit up, and Wan Rong asked her to give him more of her signatures so he could hang them on his wall. Everyone was observing their conversation. Fooling the savage second miss with just a few lines, Wan Rong's reputation spread in the servant world once again. The second day, Yushuang was excited to meet Wan Rong and wanted to make him tell his stories. At the Xiao Mansion's garden, Yushuang got to know that he was having a rest day. She asked one of the gardeners about who allowed it to, which he showed her a bunch of absence letters which were signed by her, which made her very angry. At an old crumbling house in the south, Qing said that he wanted to gather all brothers that day for a decisive battle with Li Ergu in the gate to the south. If they won the battle, they would be able to occupy the south and then attack the west. It was their first battle ever since Hongxing was established, and they must play it well and fairly, and introduced the leader, Wan Rong. Qing said that Wan Rong was also the founder and the one who names their clan, and they should call him Big Brother. He said Wan Rong would guide them with his tactics, so everyone should listen carefully. Wan Rong said although they had an appointment with Ergu for a decisive battle, they would not show up immediately and hide in ambush. They should wait until their enemies put their guard down. They would rush instantly, and they didn't need to say anything more. Everyone disagrees with Wan Rong, and Qing asked Wan Rong if they really needed to do that, and his tactics were not the same as the ones in chivalrous novels. Wan Rong said that it was a fight for territory, the moment of life and death, and winning was most important, and it was a tactic and war strategy. From the corner of the room, Beidu, Dong Qingshan's sidekick, asked Wan Rong if he meant Sun Tzu's Art of War. In ancient times, there was a magical war strategy book called Sun Tzu's Art of War, which was specially used to fight youngsters like Ergu. He flipped out on the subordinates and said Wan Rong even used the ancient methods of fighting to guide them in their imminent battle, and that was the embodiment of great wisdom. The so-called there can never be too much deception in war. That tactic could not only guarantee success, but also minimize their casualties. He passionately told the crowd that Wan Rong was extraordinarily wise, exceptionally brave, and compassionate at the same time. Wan Rong was pretty impressed by his speech and said he made him look amazing. They all went to the scene, hiding in the bushes. Ergu brought many people. Luckily, they had Wan Rong. Otherwise, they would have been very miserable. Qing said to dash out when he gave the signal. At the other side, Ergu was talking to his people, saying that Qing escaped during the battle and was a coward. Beidu said to Wan Rong that something strange. Wan Rong asked what was it, to which he said it was nothing. And in the novels, the military advisors of the two armies would say that before the war. Beidu said to let him handle it, and everyone was to stay behind. He launched an attack looking very scary. Wan Rong asked Qing about why he was so powerful. Qing said that he used to learn martial arts from a master who taught him Beidao Fist. Wan Rong asked the reason for them hiding in the bush, if Beidao could handle it all by himself. Meanwhile, Beidu was badly wounded and needed medical attention. Qing said that he was beaten after learning martial arts, and the master went to look for his wife, so they always used him as a meat shield. For many years, Xiao Mansion had been the king of the silk industry in Jingling. Being their servant was considered the same as holding a golden bowl of rice in one's own hand. Wan Rong, a mysterious contractual servant, was said to have lately arrived at Xiao Mansion. It was said that in the contract form, there was no need to work, just eat. Nevertheless, there was something wrong with it, yet it was advantageous. Beating them all in the selection of servants, going straight to Xiao Mansion's logistics section, defeating Butler Wang, rewriting the operation of Xiao Mansion, Wan Rong quickly became the main character in every conversation, the person that ladies adored the most, and the guy that Ken despised the most, thanks to his gorgeous, healthy, and talented appearance. After all, was he the personification of an angel or the devil? Wan Rong had been woken up after receiving a back injury from the battle. Ching said that they had won. Beidou said to Wan Rong that he didn't have to take a hit for him, and he had Beidou's divine power protecting his body. Wan Rong replied that he almost got smashed into pieces, and he should stand behind Wan Rong if he didn't know how to fight. Wan Rong was back at Dong's place, and Chao was attending to his injuries. Chao said that she would apply the medicine after Wan Rong was finished washing. Chao said she had no idea Wan Rong was hurt, and she even requested that he join her in the Mei Wei Xuan shop. Wan Rong said that it was okay, and he had to go back to the mansion. Furthermore, using the profit to open a hotel was also his intention. Mei Wei Xuan's owner was a jerk, so how could he let her meet him alone? Chao asked Wan Rong if he was happy at the Xiao mansion. Wan Rong said that it was of course since he was surrounded by the eldest miss, second miss, and so many beautiful ladies. Chao tried to leave disheartened. Wan Rong grabbed her hand and got out of the bath and said that he was in a cage, and without Chao beside him, he wasn't happy at all. Wan Rong asked Chao if he was telling the truth and if she didn't believe him. Chao said that she believed him and told him she would get him more water. Wan Rong thought that she was such a considerate person. He called out to her and said she was done bathing and asked her to bring a towel. A voice said that he should soak a little more, and that would be a special service. Something touched Wan Rong on the shoulders. Wan Rong panicked and thought it was possible that the future of marrying Chao and becoming a world culinary giant was in sight. Wan Rong turned around and it was Dong. The next day at the Xiao Mansion's garden, the area of Uncle Fu, a senior servant. Wan Rong asked Fu that he looked energetic and 10 years younger. Fu told Wan Rong no more flattery, and he didn't need to work and told him to go play. Wan Rong asked why he couldn't see any of his fans, and no one came to listen to his stories anymore. Fu said that someone came to mess up and chase them all away. Fu explained that Wan Rong's request for absence made the second miss angry, so she let her dog, General Mighty, get rid of all the servants who came to him and listened to stories. Wan Rong ran to find the crowd and asked what was wrong with them. They all burst and said that he didn't show up for days, and the second miss had gone mad and let Mighty General bite them. One of them explained that it had always been like that. Because Madam and Elder Miss were very busy, no one disciplined the second miss. Every time she was upset about something, she would pour her anger on them. Wan Rong asked them why they didn't fight back. Butler Wang came along and said that he wouldn't fall for their tricks, falsely claiming to be a special envoy, faking a leave application, and even getting him attacked by a dog. Wang took his anger out on the crowd and asked them why they were wasting their time by joining with the servant, and they should be with him instead. Wan Rong told him to stop, to which he said, "How dare a servant tell him to stop?" Wang told Wan Rong that if he wanted to challenge him like last time, he would do what he wanted, and they would have a life and death battle. He said that they should bet on whether Wan Rong could help those people vent their anger or not. Whoever lost would have to wear underpants all year. Wan Rong said why would he bet with an idiot like him, and besides there was nothing to decide. Wan Rong was a real man, and Wang was a half male and half female. Yu Shuang was skipping, wondering if her sister was coming back soon. Although the past few days had not been pleasant, thinking of her sister immediately lifted her spirits. While she was skipping, something came shooting through her legs and she fell down. Some bugs from the trees came falling down on her head, and water was splashed at her. She gathered up a crowd and asked them who it was, and if they didn't step out, she would let her dog bite all of them to death. An elderly person told Yu Shuang that she couldn't just let her dog bite everyone to death, and maybe it was all just a misunderstanding. The law suggested that it failed if too many people disrespected them, which suggested that certain activities ought to be punished, but it was impossible to punish when many others did the same thing. Yu Shuang thought that she was bullied, but she couldn't figure out who did it, and the servants formed a contract with one another. Then it clicked to her that it might have been Wan Rong. She asked the other servants where he was. One of them said that he went to the backyard to practice writing. She left in anger to look for Wan Rong while the servants got some relief. Wan Rong was cooking wings that were stolen from the kitchen, and he had no idea what Yu Shuang was talking about when she asked him about her being bullied. Yu Shuang told him to stop messing around, and it was him who told the servants to mess with her. Wan Rong said, how can it be him since he was grilling chicken for Fu all that time and offered her a taste? Yu Shuang wasn't there to talk, and she said she would tell her mother when she returned. Wan Rong told her that he thought using the second Mrs. signature to request an absence was a really proud thing to do. Yu Shuang thought her goal was to have Wan Rong tell the story to only her in the future. She told him that he was just a servant in the family and he wouldn't dare if she allowed it. She was there to inform him that he must tell her stories from there on, and the other servants didn't deserve to be told stories. Wan Rong said there was no reason, and he was also embarrassed to do that with her only. Yu Shuang insisted that telling stories to her was such a light job, and there was no need for heavy work, and he would be rewarded with delicious food, and in the future, all her servants would not dare to bully him if he was on her side. But Wan Rong refused them all. Yu Shuang said that in the mansion everyone had to obey her. Wan Rong replied with a cold stare that he was just an employee, not a servant of her house. Being rich was not something worth bragging about. Also, the rich ones were her mother and sister, and she was just a parasite. If it wasn't for her family's money and power, no one would care for a brat like her who didn't know how to respect others. He told her to go where someone would please her, and left. Yu Shuang thought, how dare a servant like Wan Rong talk to her like that, and he left without even turning back. She would let the dog bite him to death and tell her mother to kick him out of the mansion. She overheard the servants saying that it was very fulfilling since Yu Shuang usually was the one who bullied them, and servants were people as well. They said that there was nothing for her to brag about since the Xiao family was about to end, and a child like the second miss didn't know anything. Back then, the servants of the Xiao mansion were graceful, but at the time, even the staff of small businesses had lost their respect. The outside was flashy and the inside was rotten, and they were afraid that they would not be able to hold on much longer. After that place fell, let alone their people, even Madam and Miss wouldn't know where they would have to drift. Otherwise, what was the reason for the Madam to have talks in the conference hall? Not to mention the fact that there were several competitors outside, even family members had betrayed them. They were rich and beautiful, and also had a big business, and who wouldn't want it? Yu Shuang ran away crying and wondered if she was not a child, and she knew the situation of her family. Her mother never had time to see her. Her sister always wandered outside and didn't come home. No one was really willing to help her family, but she believed that as long as she had her older sister, her family would surely gradually recover. Her mother and sister were the greatest people in the world. Originally, at least the servants in the house would obey, but at the time, the servants also dared to bully her. It was fine to just continue to wait at first, and she would wait for her sister to come back and handle the business in the house, and blamed it all on Wan Rong again. Meanwhile, Wan Rong was lying down, thinking about Yu Shuang, and how Uncle Fu said that the Xiao mansion had been downgraded, and there was just that child left who knew nothing and was naughty. Living at the mansion was boring, and he was missing Chao. He decided to paint Chao on a pillow. Someone asked from outside the window to come tell them a story, to which Wan Rong said that he couldn't as he was busy. Wan Rong had messed up the painting from the noise from outside and a knock on the door. Wan Rong opened the door, and it was Wang who said that the second lady wanted to see him so he should head to the library with him. Wan Rong knew why Yu Shuang was calling him, and he suspected right. Yu Shuang, along with General Mighty and General Zhen Yuan, said that she would punish Wan Rong for the sake of Lord. She said that he took advantage of the painting of her sister to make money, and even incited the servants to bully her. She asked him to admit to his crimes right away, then give himself 100 slaps or he wouldn't be able to leave there. Wan Rong replied that blaming others was not right, and she should call the madam if she could. He said that he was there to stay and wanted to be a normal servant. They were not related to each other from that moment, and he asked her to not fight with him. Yu Shuang kept insisting that Wan Rong slapped himself, to which his reply was the same as before. He wasn't their servant, and told them to not impose him by those evil leisured of exploiters class. As Wan Rong tried to leave, she ordered the dogs to attack. Wan Rong had prepared sooner and threw bones which tricked the dogs and diverted their attention. Wan Rong rushed and got Wang in a chokehold and dragged him into a room, held him hostage and wrapped him around bones which attracted the dogs, and threw Wang out of the window. Wan Rong turned his attention to Yu Shuang and asked her if she was testing his patience. Wan Rong said it was her turn to be punished, and as she was helpless, he would torture her. Wan Rong tried to scare her by taking his shirt which was full of dog bones, and he said he was a master at dog coaching. Yu Shuang asked him how dare he tease her like that and called him a dog slave. Wan Rong was not pleased and reminded her to not call him that, and she forgot what he told her earlier, but she kept calling him that, followed by more insults. Wan Rong said that he heard that the second miss had never been punished, and he would be the first one to do so. She said that she would tell her mother about all that when she got back home. Wan Rong sarcastically said that he was scared and worried if he would get fired. Wan Rong spanked her multiple times and told her not to always think that everyone is scared of her, and she messed with everyone because of her family and wealth. He said that she could only bully and scare others, make them follow just because they were avoiding her. She was a useless kid and no one needed her. Wan Rong left and told her to tell her mother if she liked, and he didn't want to work with her family. Yu Shuang started to cry and wondered why he was not getting scared and knew everything. Her family was perfect, and why was there someone who bullied her? The family was going to end soon, and Wan Rong spoke the truth. She had to look for her mother and tell her everything, but she would get mad at her also. She wondered if it was true that a lot of people hated her. If her family failed, would she become a servant like Wan Rong? She only knew her mother and sister loved her, and she never thought about the servants. She actually wanted everyone to love her, follow her, and if they hesitated, she would force them. She knew what Wan Rong would say, but she still chose to ask. Wan Rong turned around and told her if she smiled more and didn't do what she did before, regardless, she was still adorable. To think he had to teach a child, but when she cried, he took pity on her. If he didn't suddenly come to that word, he would have been playing with his sister. When his parents weren't home, he took care of her, and he also grew up with her. Seeing Yu Shuang, it was like seeing his sister. Yu Shuang said that Wan Rong was just trying to take pity on her and she was annoying. Wan Rong tried to console her and apologize for being tough earlier. She asked not to tell anyone about what happened. Wan Rong said that as long as she didn't bully his fandom, they wouldn't bully her. Yu Shuang said that she had a condition. She asked him if he could tell her stories. It was not a big deal, but only when he had time. Yu Shuang told him that aside from being arrogant and playing pranks, she didn't know how to get along with others. Wan Rong said he could teach her if she behaved. Some days later, the second miss often came to listen to stories. She didn't tell the dogs to bite Wan Rong anymore. Except for being stubborn, she was cute and was as changeable as a weathercock. Wang had lied to him that he was promoted to be the senior houseboy, and as a result, he had to serve young Master Biao, whom the dogs even gave up on. He had arrived at his quarters and he was shocked at how handsome he was. Biao was having an argument with a man whilst thinking of a good poem. Wan Rong was confused about what was going on. He tried to ask Biao, but he was kicked out of the window. Wan Rong said that his future would be blank if he followed such a master. Wang teased him and said being left without Uncle Fu's protection and having to serve an intolerable master must have been exhausting for him. Wan Rong thought that Wang had been opposing him since he arrived at the mansion, and he had to deal with him at the earliest. Wang explained that Biao was Guo Wuchang, the maternal grandson of Lady Xiao. His father was the lady's big brother and the magistrate of a country under Yangzhou. His father sent him to the Xiao mansion to receive some cultural education. However, he didn't know anything aside from partying all day long, so the people in the mansion also looked down on him. Surprisingly, Wan Rong was not annoyed by those facts, and was rather excited. He wondered if he was lucky to have met such a man. By being in his good books, he could also take part in his fooling around. His life as a servant would be more fun and exciting. Furthermore, he had good looks, and was very aware of protecting his image. If Wan Rong taught him well, in the future, if Yu Shuang dared to bother him, he would let Guo handle her. Yu Shuang came in to see Wan Rong into Guo's quarters, but he was thrown out. Guo freaked out and started praising her, and his image changed in an instant. He told her that she hadn't been there for days and he wrote a poem for her. She replied that every time she was there, he just repeated the same 2 verses because they belonged to the same poem. Guo started crying, and Yu Shuang said that her sister would be back and she would check his study process, and if he kept repeating verses, she would ignore him for good. They finished teaching, and as Yu Shuang was leaving, Guo recited a poem which impressed everyone suddenly. Yu Shuang wondered how he could write such a poem. She noticed Wan Rong outside the window and he waved his hand saying it was not him. Yu Shuang told Guo that he was great and she would tell her sister and he better take care of Wan Rong. She left and Wan Rong came back. Guo asked who he was. Wan Rong introduced himself and said from there on he would accompany him when he studied. He greatly admired Guo's duality and talent. Guo thought that Wan Rong was not simple and had already recognized his greatness at a glance. They both seemed to get along pretty well. Then the boring study period started. Guo wondered if Wan Rong was the person the servants were talking about, and he heard that he had some talents. His goal of being respected by his cousin would no longer be a dream. While Wan Rong was looking away, he had a feeling that someone was looking at him. It was Guo who was staring at him. Guo asked him that he heard Wan Rong had talent, and if he had any more poems he thought earlier, and he should teach him when they got back, or else his cousin would get angry. Wan Rong said if it was his request, then he would be happy to obey. However, he also had to put some effort into getting fame, so in the future, it would be certain that the madam would marry her 2 daughters to him. Guo said that he knew that, but still wanted the results without getting any work done, and he hated studying the most. Wan Rong said that just by stealing a few poems, he wasn't going to get anywhere near the daughters. But it would be easy for him if he wanted them to see him in a new light. Guo said that he would obey whatever Wan Rong said, and as long as he could eat, he would not let him starve. Another half-hour had passed. Guo asked the master to go to the bathroom, so what was his plan? Wan Rong replied that sitting there made him numb, so they should go outside to seek inspiration. Wan Rong thought Wang was stupid for thinking taking care of Guo was a problem. As he was walking by, Wang showed up and asked Wan Rong where he was going. Wan Rong was disappointed to see him and asked him if he was falling in love with him or something. Wang told Wan Rong that he needed to accompany Guo in the study room and study time was still not over, so why was he outside? Wan Rong completely ignored Wang and said out loud that he had a thing he shouldn't tell anyone else, but if it was Wang, he would think otherwise. He bluffed that he was on a special mission that Guo gave him and the contents could not be disclosed. Wang said that it was all made up like last time and he couldn't use the same trick twice. Also, there could be nothing special about Guo's mission since he was just a distant relative. Wan Rong's duty was to wholeheartedly serve the Xiao family and not to serve that good-for-nothing master of his. Wan Rong said in his eyes Guo was still a master and he had to obey his command. Meanwhile, Guo was listening to their conversation and Wan Rong tried to calm down as he was furious with Wang. Guo kicked him and said there were no rankings and he was the young master. He was getting out of control, but Wan Rong tried to stop him and said he could handle the rest. They both beat him to pulp, but then Guo stopped as he had no strength left. They both seemed to have made quite a connection. Wan Rong told Wang that he stopped just because of Guo. Wan Rong told Guo that time flies and they should not waste any and look for inspiration around the mansion. He asked Guo about where they could find such inspiration, by reading some books perhaps. Guo said there was no fun there and asked about going fishing. Wan Rong didn't quite like the idea and suggested they go and eat some food. Guo said if it was food, then he was all in, and he knew a place that sold very tasty fried chicken. Guo whispered the place in Wan Rong's name and he was shocked. Guo explained that he had mixed it with something else and it was not like that. The place where beautiful girls gathered, it was called a flower boat, Miao Yufang. It was the largest flower boat on the Qinhuai riverside. If they could eat there, they could meet up with a lot of beautiful girls. Furthermore, he heard some rumors and they recently added a new gorgeous courtesan, and she was talented as well. Guo said to forget it if Wan Rong didn't want to go. Wan Rong said that his thoughts were a little naive and got fired up about going to meet such a lady who could be good at studying, and they would surely find inspiration at such a place. Jingling's 12 hairpins, Qinhuai's wind and moon. Since long ago, that was the unique beauty that made Jingling's fame known to people of all corners. There were a lot of flower boats on the Qinhuai riverside, and among them, Miao Yufeng was the most pretty. It was known that a mysterious and beautiful Oiran suddenly appeared in Miao Yufeng, and with her charm, more and more scholars and literature started to show up. That night, it seemed that the Oiran would be performing on stage. The news had got out and people had crowded the place. Everyone started admiring how handsome Guo was. Wan Rong insulted him by saying if it weren't for his piggy face he made, he wouldn't be attractive to girls. However, as long as he was with Wan Rong, he would make sure to make him the most attractive man. Guo appreciated it and asked him to share his business with him and eat, drink, and breathe together. At Huafeng Street, Wan Rong explained that girls were always into cool men. In order to become a truly cool guy, it was not only about having a cool appearance, but also a cool soul. And as his instructor, he had specially prepared a strategy for training a drop-dead handsome man like Guo to be a cool guy. Guo approached an elderly woman, but Wan Rong dragged him away and told him that no matter how beautiful she was old enough to be his aunt, and asked him not to make such a random choice. Guo showed him some options, but Wan Rong found some sort of problems with them. Guo said that they were all beautiful and his cup of tea. Wan Rong said that his vision had broken the ordinary standards of a cool man. To be more precise, his soul had risen to a scarcely paralleled level that no one could defeat. Wan Rong said they were heading to Miao Yufeng, the concentration where the cool man training course would take place. At Miao Yufeng's second floor, two people were observing them both and said that rumors were Guo had driven all the young masters of Jinling City insane. The two people were Qingshuan and her assistant, and they noticed that one of the two guys was Wan Rong. Qingshuan got angry and thought what a shameless man he was. Unless she had some urgent business to handle, she would immediately go down the stairs and kill him without demur. Guo suddenly stopped having fun, to which Wan Rong asked him the reason. Guo pointed out to the other side of the room. One person was the son of the military commander of Jiangsu, Cheng Dai, and the other one was even more redoubtable. He was the son of Lord Luo Min, the governor of their Jiangsu, Luo Yuan. Those two young masters were the most powerful men in Jiangsu. They often hung out with the official descendants, and they were there for the Oiran. With them around, Guo was afraid that even with 10 of him or 100 of him there, he still stood no chance of getting close to the Oiran. Wan Rong assured him and said to not care about them, and picking up a girl was not about how powerful one's father was, but how handsome they are. As long as he was there, the Oiran would definitely fall head over heels for him. That motivated Guo to become a cool man, and he asked Wan Rong to show him the way. Then, a hush fell over the crowd as soon as the first rhythm from the zither sounded. From behind the spotlight, a shadow narrated a poem. Qingshuan's assistant said to her that it was reputed that if anyone could find faults with the Oiran's performance that time, she would fulfill one wish for them. Qingshuan said that it was really perfect. She was afraid that no one could teach her anything in her performance. After her performance, she was afraid that it would take her years to listen to such a masterpiece again. If Qian Xianer was not the one she was looking for, she could be one of her best friends in the future, which was also a good thing. Wan Rong thought she was just pretending to be mysterious and putting on an ambiguous attitude just to attract more attention that was merely a trick. The Oiran told the crowd to stop and showed herself. Wan Rong thought that she was really beautiful and told Guo that it was time for the second lesson about the soul of a cool man, and he needed to get a head start and asked him to be the first one to say hello. Guo started to run toward the stage, but Wan Rong immediately stopped him by pinning him to the ground. Wan Rong said that he couldn't just meet her with the piggy face of his, and their efforts would go down the drain if he got up there like that. Luo Yuan came and introduced himself to Miss Xianer, followed by others. Wan Rong assured Guo that they were just introducing themselves, which was not a problem, and he had Wan Rong as his spokesman, and he would go up there and send her his greetings. Wan Rong tried to make himself through the crowd, but he couldn't manage to make himself heard. Wan Rong spotted a teapot and decided to break it on the ground to divert their attention. There was pin-drop silence and everyone was looking at Wan Rong and Guo. Wan Rong introduced himself and said he was a servant of the Xiao family. On behalf of his young master, Guo Wuchang, he sent Miss Qin the best regards. Miss Qin appreciated Wan Rong's kindness and asked why Guo wasn't turning around. Wan Rong said that he always kept a low profile and he was afraid his gestures may offend her, so he couldn't turn around to see her. Qin said that Guo seemed like a gentle person. She left and Wan Rong got furious at Guo for not turning around. Qing Zuan and her assistant listened to Wan Rong and figured he was a servant of the Xiao family. Qing Zuan said, though he was a bad guy, he was undoubtedly talented. Guo asked Wan Rong if they should return next time. Wan Rong said that it was just the beginning, the third lesson of the strategy that made the soul of a cool man. Shocking words were the prerequisite for success, and he had already built the tactics for him. The others started to crowd Qin again and started to appreciate her singing and performances, to the point they started to fight among themselves about who was disrespecting her and crossing boundaries. Guo had managed to show his face. Wan Rong said that it was reputed that if anyone could spot an error in his performance, he would satisfy their request. He said Guo suggested that there were at least 3 flaws in her performance earlier and asked if Xianer would dare to listen to his comments. Meanwhile, Wan Rong was pinching Guo to not make that face again. Xianer replied that she had never broken her work and she was all ears to their comments. Wan Rong asked Guo to do it, but he could speak, and Wan Rong apologized and said his stuff was very stuffy and he would explain it to her. The crowd started to question Wan Rong and asked him what evil schemes they were up to. Wan Rong started with the first problem. The melody was too simple and boring. If she combined her zither with other musical instruments, such as flute, the rhythm would become more harmonious, thus making her performance even greater. The second problem was she was laying too much emphasis on the technique. Her zither playing skills had undoubtedly reached a superb level. However, he could hardly feel any of her own emotions in her song. If she didn't play the song with her true feelings, there would only be empty sounds, which were very hard to touch the audience's heart. The third problem was there were too many unnecessary weepy parts in her performance. She was still too young to experience and thoroughly understand the so-called ups and downs of love, so she was just trying to make her song mournful by adding sad words to emphasize the sorrow. The crowd was against Wan Rong's judgment, but he said that Guo was afraid that his words might upset her. In fact, he didn't want to be frank with her for the fear that she would feel disappointed about herself, so he assigned Wan Rong to convey his words to her. He asked forgiveness if his words were found offensive to her, and said that the young master hoped that his sincere comments would help her improve her skills. Xianer said that she was totally convinced and was willing to fulfill any demands of his young master. Xianer asked Wan Rong about what his request was, but he was still thinking. She wondered where he was from, and if he took that advantage to harass her, she would kill him right away. Qing Xuan told her assistant that Wan Rong would surely take advantage of the request and do something disgusting. Wan Rong said that he wanted her. He wanted her to sing a song for him. Wan Rong got ahead of himself and forgot he wanted to ask on behalf of Guo. The crowd got furious and started to go after Wan Rong. Some wondered if he was an interesting guy, and some despised him for ruining their chances of being with Xianer. Xianer wondered why he made such a simple request. Was he making fun of her, or maybe there was nothing good there? The men were all good and were all liars. She had been feeling weird for a while, and Guo seemed like a pervert, but Wan Rong seemed uninterested in her pretty face. However, he approached her step by step. While Wan Rong was being punished, she stopped the crowd. She said that she would accept to sing for him. Wan Rong got surprised that she wanted to keep her promise, to which she said she kept every promise she ever made. Wan Rong said that it was a hymn, and he was afraid she didn't know how to sing it. Xianer asked him to teach her. Everyone there was as upset as ever, but Xianer insisted that Wan Rong teach her. Wan Rong started to sing, and the crowd disliked the song and said he disrespected Xianer. She wondered what kind of song that was. The lyrics were terrible, and he wanted her to sing it. He wanted to make fun of her. She wanted to find a way to lie to him to pass that. She would follow him to somewhere deserted and handle him. She tried to hypnotize Wan Rong with her beauty and tried to trick him with her eyes. Wan Rong was completely under her spell until a plate broke randomly. She wondered who threw it, or if it fell down accidentally. Wan Rong came back to his senses and asked her to sing a song. He picked up Guo and asked him to tell her to sing a song for her. From above the stairs, Qing Xuan and her assistant threw the plate. Qing Xuan said if she hadn't thrown the plate, she would have used her magic to break the promise. Xianer told Wan Rong that she could sing that song since the song's lyrics were straightly vulgar and stupid, and asked him to change the song. Wan Rong headed towards the crowd and grabbed the hand of a girl. He asked her if she would like to sing a song for Guo. She replied she would as long as he was happy. Wan Rong asked Xianer if that girl could sing it. Why couldn't she? Though she was the beauty queen of Miao Yufang, the young master also loved her, since she was born with talent and a pretty face, but the tavern was still a tavern, not a library or a theater. That place sold entertainment services, laughter, and happiness. She was still a member of Miao Yufang, and the girls there were not as pretty as her. Basically, she was no different from them. He asked her if she thought she was on a higher level compared to them for having a pretty face since she was born, acting badly for being pampered too much. Wan Rong realized that had scared a lot of people. People were impressed by Wan Rong's speech. However, Xianer wondered that Wan Rong was not just talented at music, he was also emotional. She questioned if he was really a servant. It was suspicious that he wasn't even craving her beauty. The weirdest thing was seeing him. He may look stupid as a donkey. It was wrong to accuse him that he was righteous and respected for just listening to his words. In fact, he definitely had no good intentions, and a good man did not exist in that world. Wan Rong asked her if she was mad. She said that he was talented and she really admired him. She wondered what kind of person he was and what he was planning. Suddenly she got excited, and it would be really interesting if he became her man toy. Life was unfathomable, man's heart was unfathomable, love was even fathomable. No matter how many people they met or how many incidents they experienced, they were not strained at all. Even if they were fragile, even if their lives were as short as fireworks, they still maintained their loneliness, their proudest posture, and the most beautiful face until the moment they fell. All the beauty, hatred, and falseness were like flowers blooming for her, scattered behind her back. She was independent, conquering the world with her sword, ignoring life and man's heart with a smile and playing around in that hypocritical world. Just like a butterfly, when she got tired any day, she would disappear in secret. She liked that kind of life. She thought for her, there was no better kind of life than that. Meanwhile, Guo thanked Wan Rong and was happy for what he did. Wan Rong told him that she might invite him later. Luo Yuan came along to their tale and introduced himself. His father was the governor of Jiangsu. Luo appreciated Wan Rong's performance that showed his profound accomplishments in music. He had been observing him from the start to the end, and he had great admiration for him. He said that Wan Rong dispelled the arrogance of the Oiran, which helped restore the honor of all the men across Jingling. Wan Rong introduced Guo to him, and he didn't realize Guo was the son of Mr. Guo. They became acquaintances, and they both got along at the same time. Wan Rong asked Luo if he was there for an Oiran. He said every man wanted to meet her since she was beautiful. However, she always looked down on others, so he was also there to teach her a lesson. It was a pity that he was not capable of doing that. Fortunately, Wan Rong helped everyone work off her spleen. He told Wan Rong that he must be a master of love. Wan Rong said that flirting with girls was simple, and just using 7 words could do the trick. Being bold meant that one had to courageously start a conversation with the girl and not let any opportunity get away. Being subtle meant one had to care about their mood. It would become useless if she was with them, but could not feel their existence. And as for being thick-skinned, needless to say, if one was faced with setbacks in flirting with a girl, they must persevere until she falls for them. A lady came along and told Wan Rong that her lady wanted to see them. Wan Rong and the others couldn't guess who the lady was. It was Xianer who was calling for them. Wan Rong thought that girl was good at seducing others, and there was a possibility that she could eat him as well. He told her that it was not suitable for a servant like him to be in her company. She said if they did not comply with her request, then she would pack her things and live with Wan Rong, which made everyone around angry. They arrived at the boudoir of the Oiran. Guo pointed out the calligraphy and paintings on the wall were all famous contemporary artworks, and compared to those people he was nothing at all. And to Xianer, he was like an ant. Wan Rong said that everyone had their own fate. Since there were so many famous paintings in that room, he didn't think Xianer would pay attention to them, and it seemed that they were just casual friends. and there was no need to be envious of that casual relationship. They could have fun all day, which was much better than them. The assistant called for Guo. He told Wan Rong that he was scared, to which he said that he should try his best. Guo had gone, and Wan Rong was relieved that it was finally done and wondered if he got lonely in a big room like that. He questioned if the Oiran was really like that, knowing everyone in the world but not understanding themselves, and they were actually quite pathetic. Xianer showed herself from behind the curtain and asked Wan Rong if he really thought about her like that. Wan Rong asked him why she was eavesdropping on what he said. She said that was where she lived, and he was talking aloud in her room. Wan Rong asked her if he should consider himself as a guest of honor. Wan Rong thought the situation was bad, and Guo had been taken away. She asked him what was wrong and if he was worried. She assured him that he was quite loyal, and he shouldn't worry as Guo was being taken care of. Wan Rong asked her why she called for him and not have a conversation with Guo about life. She told him to stop playing stupid, and don't think that she didn't know he was using Guo as a shield. He was the one who came up with all the words that ran against her. She already said that there was no need for her to sing that dirty song, so why did he make a fool out of her? She didn't expect him to say it in front of so many people, and it was embarrassing for a girl. Wan Rong said that she might not believe it, but he just wanted to fulfill Guo's wish. He was not interested in her, and he didn't want to hear any of her dubious words. Her pretentious attitude may have an effect on others. He knew who he was, and asked her to be straight and tell him what she wanted her to do. She said the reason why she wanted her there was to ask about prosody. Wan Rong tried to hide it and said he didn't know the first thing about music. She asked then how he managed to recognize her flaws when she was singing. Wan Rong said that it was simple. He listened, watched, and thought more. He wouldn't say much about the first 2 points anymore. As for the third one, it was very important. Although her skills were superb, she was just imitating others. She was talented, so why didn't she write her own songs and sing them? And that is how she would be able to understand the true emotions in them. She said that she also thought about that, but with so many masters in front of her, she would be laughed at. Wan Rong said that was not true at all. The purpose of songwriting was not to gain recognition for others, but for one's pleasure. She should write when she wants to and sing when she wants to. She said that he was so profound in prosody, and he didn't say that he didn't know anything. It was obvious that he was laughing at her. Wan Rong said he never did that. It was just that the songs in his hometown were different. She asked if Wan Rong was really a servant. He said if he was fake, he could be her replacement. Wan Rong wondered why she was staring at him. It would be pointless to love him, and he didn't have money to redeem her. Xianer said that she would help to redeem him. She said she wanted him to be a master there. He hesitated and said he was loyal to the Xiao mansion. She said if that was the case, then she couldn't have that kind of luck. It was just like Wan Rong said, she knew everyone but her own heart. Although she was beautiful there, it wasn't as simple as it looked on the surface. He said that it was not a big deal, and that was the norm. Everything in life was mostly unsatisfactory. If things always satisfied people's wishes, there was nothing interesting in life. She told him to not imitate the way old men talk by saying some profound statement. He said that it was all right, and he didn't mean to tell her. The world was impermanent, and no one knew what would happen the next moment. She may meet the most important person in her life, or she could also meet the ones who deceived her, and it was likely that she encountered all kinds of unfortunate things. But it was in such purgatory that she exerted her light and heat to live on. If the world became only beautiful, peaceful, and calm, his values and colors would also fade. Xianer thought how could he think of those positive things when he understood that the world was impermanent. There were fireworks outside, and Wan Rong pointed out how she saw those every day. She wasn't responding, so he asked her if she was mad. She said she hated people who tried to sound lofty and deceive others by saying things that they didn't even understand. She wondered if she didn't like the fact that there was someone who could influence her own choices. Wan Rong said he didn't know anything, and he just lived the way he was. His hometown was far away, and suddenly, he couldn't go back there anymore. His family, friends, and all of his life were gone forever. He was there in Jingling to be a low-level servant who was as helpless as a leaf in the river. But that didn't matter. He never knew what would happen tomorrow, but he must be happy every day. No matter where he was, he would try to live as good a life as he could. He would make himself happy. Then he would meet someone who was willing to let him protect her, and he would bring her happiness. He would definitely have a lot of good friends and brothers, a lot of people who loved him, and people he loved. The fact that the world was impermanent didn't matter. He wouldn't choose loneliness and sadness. His proud smile wouldn't change. That was to respond to the impermanence with permanence. Those who loved him in his hometown in an unknowable faraway place also had the same hope. He smiled and said his life would definitely be full of laughter and happiness. It would even be more beautiful than the White Lotus and would be the best life ever. Wan Rong asked her how it was while looking at the fireworks. He looked at her and she was crying. He asked her the reason for it. She didn't reply and turned around. He wondered if she was even beautiful when she cried. She told him she was tired and told him to go away. He wondered if he had said anything weird. It was all to help Guo, but seeing her cry made him feel weird. Living at the most beautiful and splendid place, being appreciated and respected, but was she still unhappy enough to cry? Each girl or each person, everyone had their hidden weakest part inside, no matter how strong they were. Guo came along and started to jump over Wan Rong. He said thanks to him he got a lot of girls' signatures and got very happy, and no one did so many things like that to him before. Under the spotlight, Qing Xuan was coming along, drunk, walking towards Wan Rong, and suddenly a man on a horse charges at them, and Wan Rong rushes to protect Guo, pinning him to the ground. He asked Guo if he was okay, and the man on the horse insulted them and said to open their eyes when they walked. Wan Rong told him how he could say that after bumping into others by riding a horse like that. The man replied how dare a poor person like him try to teach a master like him, and asked him if Wan Rong knew whose way he was blocking. Wan Rong said he didn't care who he was, and it was his fault bumping into them, and asked him to apologize to Guo. He replied that how could he apologize to a servant like him? Wan Rong said that he was just pretending to be a monk riding a white horse at midnight. A voice came from the cabin saying if it was cousin Guo. Wan Rong got furious and asked the voice to come down from the carriage, while Guo tried to stop him. Wan Rong told them again to come down and take care of their white horse. The man on the horse wondered who Guo was, and why they were calling him cousin. He might be the one who came to the Xiao family. He was the culprit who ruined his things and made Yuruo not accept him. His body was covered in mud anyway, and he couldn't blame him for not being recognized. The man on the horse tried to attack Guo, but Wan Rong managed to get in the way and got hit. He prepared another attack. Wan Rong thought to not let that man get what he wanted. In that hanging by a thread moment, it seemed like a weird strength and amazing focus poured out from him in an instant. He managed to grab the robe the man was attacking him with and said he suddenly felt an abundant strength, and he bumped into the wrong person. The man thought that Wan Rong was strong and the whip felt like it was being pulled. He wondered what to do. He couldn't release his hand and couldn't lose his face in front of Yuro. Wan Rong said that he dared to bully others for his power, and he would make him regret what he did. Guo was in awe and thought Wan Rong suddenly looked good and reliable. As long as he was with him, he had protection and didn't have to worry about being bullied. Another voice from the cabin told the man, Brother Tao, to wait for a while. It was the man's sister who said she knew who that impolite guy was. She told Tao to let her solve her Xiao family's problem. The sister was Miss Xiao, who Guo was very excited to see at the moment, but it lived on short notice. Tao said to Miss Xiao it was no wonder their outfits looked so familiar, and they were servants of her family, and he was sure that they were not trained by her. He continued about how he would stoop to the same level as those rascals who disgraced her. Wan Rong thought about what kind of fake cuteness he was trying to pull. He was the one who crashed into them, and why was he being the victim? He had changed his attitude in the blink of an eye. Miss Xiao said everything could be explained after they reached the mansion, and they should join them. Guo asked her if she recognized her, and he was not any low-class peasant but was her favorite cousin. She said to stop fooling around and she didn't have any cousins who always wandered around doing indecent things. She asked if he wasn't wandering around, then why was he there at that hour? Guo replied he heard she was coming back, so he wanted to wait there for her. She said he was very shameless. They haven't met in a few days, and he already started lying without blinking. With his body stinking like garbage, that was a clear reason for blaming him, and he should have been memorizing his lesson in the study room at that time. He should take a look at his embarrassing appearance. She originally didn't want to expose him, but he had to do it all by himself. Guo kept insisting that he wasn't playing around all the time, while Tao was fueling the flame, consoling her to not pay attention to Guo. Guo said although he didn't memorize the book, he really went to other places to study. She burst out with anger and said he was ashamed to the Xiao family. He always fooled around outside all day and did not study seriously for even a second. He was also a man, so why couldn't others dislike towards him urge him to move forward? She wished that he really was just a lowly servant. How people thought of him he already knew. She said as long as Yuruo was still there, she would try her best to revitalize the Xiao family. She didn't ask Guo to contribute anything to the Xiao family. She just wanted him to stop being a pain to the family. Guo put his head down and said he understood and she was right. He had to go back and not humiliate the family any further. Tears came to his eyes as he thought since young, no matter how much she hated him, he still liked her the most. No matter how much she hated him, he would only let her down. She was just like everyone else. No matter what he said, they all just said to go back and memorize it, but he couldn't find any answers in the books. But he really didn't know if trying to memorize things endlessly was the only way for him to be useful to him. He started to leave, but Wan Rong stopped him and said he wouldn't allow him to leave. He said to them as the old saying went, a valor would die for his best friend, while a lady would dress up for her sweetheart. In his whole life, he never heard of someone who tried their best for someone who despised them. He asked Miss Xiao what she thought. She told him he had to butt in even when she hadn't picked on him, and she had heard his name for a while. Rumors said that there was a new contract servant in the mansion who was so good at talking back that no one could handle him and asked the guards to hit him, for he talked back in a frivolous tone to his masters 30 times. Wan Rong asked what was wrong with her. The first they met, and she already wanted to hit him. Wan Rong said he heard someone say cousin or something. He thought they mistook him for someone, so he pulled a little prank. Furthermore, he didn't even see the eldest Miss's face, nor did he know who was in the carriage. He asked Tao if she thought everyone else wanted to be frivolous with her. Tao asked what kind of nonsense he was talking about. Wan Rong asked who the young master was supposed to be. It was a little early to dip his hands into the family's business. His lowly self was a servant of the family, not his. He was talking to Miss, so who gave him the right to be meddlesome, and there was a limit to self-imposing his relationship. Tao apologized to Miss Xiao and admitted he was rash, and he shouldn't have been involved in her family's affairs. It was just that he couldn't see her getting bullied. She told him that it was her mistake as well. Tao took the opportunity to be in her good books and said in his heart her business was his and he was trying to help. Wan Rong wondered if he had bad news. He was clearly at a disadvantage earlier, yet he could still keep calm and even showed off to her. He would definitely keep an eye on him later. The eldest Miss was also such a fool to not see past such a cheap trick. She told Tao to wait for a moment, and she would definitely discipline the servants of the family. She asked the guards to hit Wan Rong 100 times. Wan Rong asked what nonsense she was talking about and if she knew anything other than hitting people. She said that she would not talk about him being frivolous with her, and to leave her cousin astray like that, he deserved a beating. He was now part of the family, so of course she had full right to deal with him and teach him the rules. Wan Rong replied that he was sorry to disappoint her, but he was a contract worker, not a possession that she could do what she wanted with. Furthermore, he asked from which eye did she see him leading Guo astray. She asked the guards to hit him 300 times. Wan Rong laughed and said that many hits could take a person's life, and it was illegal to abuse her authority. Everyone was equal, and he didn't even sell himself to her house to be a servant. She asked what kind of fallacy was everyone being equal. A servant was a servant, and the master was a master. If he chose to serve someone, then he had better know his place and status. Wan Rong paused for a moment, and then with a cold glare asked her if she was sick in the head. She got furious by his tone. Wan Rong said it was the sickness of the rich. He heard that the eldest Miss was not only beautiful, but also smart and talented. She had already borne half of the family's business on her shoulders at such a young age, but he thought maybe because Miss had always been on top and managing so many people, that she forgot one thing. Aside from status, there was also the respect between people. The title of servants she talked about was just the name of a profession. If those people had not formed the base for her, then she wouldn't be on top. Although they lived on her money, it was also thanks to them that her peaceful days were ensured. It was all give and take and no one owed anything. To not pay attention to one's own progress, to blindly pursue one's own interest, to only show off one's power, if she thought people were her own possession. Therefore, not needing to respect their rights and letting others freely trample on them, then the ever-so-famous eldest Miss of the Xiao family was nothing more than an immature profiteer that was not worth the respect. She told Wan Rong to keep talking, and he wouldn't succeed in anything big. He was indeed at fault, even if he didn't bring her cousin into play. He also deserved punishment for not stopping the master as he snuck out. Wan Rong said that his master was his first priority, so how dare he not obey his orders? He was his servant, not his teacher. Furthermore, he asked her why she was so subjective and who told her that Guo was going out to play. He asked if she ever heard of the gorgeous and talented Oiran Qinxianer of Miao Yufeng, and Guo went to exchange poems with her. Before everyone in Jingling, they even pointed out some flaws in her performance on the spot, stunning the whole audience. He said if she didn't believe what he was saying, then she could go to the governor's mansion and ask Guo's best friend Luo Yuan. With his talent and character, he was sure that he would catch her good grace. Miss Xiao was shook about Guo knowing people that were talented. Wan Rong said that she imposed that closed-minded view on Guo. She even casually blamed him for leading him astray, and even wanted to hit him. They were just plans laying faults on a good person, and how could a member of the family do such a thing? She had to compensate for the damage she caused to his mental health. He continued and said just based on a few speculations, yet she was ready to punish him, and how could she manage a family like that? If news leaked out, what would the onlookers think of her? With such a brutal dictatorial head like hers, it was no wonder the Xiao family was slowly collapsing. Also, about all the mean words she said to Guo, he thought that he wouldn't take any of them into heart, although he asked to forgive his lowly self for saying that the pressure of managing the household was very big. That was why the anxiety was written all over her face. She always rushed for the result. Therefore, she always uses the most extreme methods to urge the people around her. But in the end, how many people would really improve, though? Only she knew the answer to that. He asked her to remember well, no one would improve just because she hated them. Her urging will stress others out, making them fear her and be more likely to deceive her. She told Wan Rong that the time he served there was still long and asked her guards to leave. Guo said that Wan Rong was awesome, and he wasn't scared of his cousin at all, and even stunned her with his words. Wan Rong asked Guo why he cried, and he told him before to not be scared of her. He said that he understood all of Wan Rong's kindness and all of the things he conveyed to him, he had understood them all. Wan Rong said he was tired of that annoying girl, and while they rode in a fast carriage, they had to chase after them. From afar, there was smoke followed by someone calling Wan Rong's name. It was the second miss who jumped on Wan Rong. She asked him if he wasn't home with her and where he went. He said he went with Guo to learn how to gather folklore. She glared at Guo with anger and told Wan Rong she wanted to hear stories, but she couldn't find him. He said that he would tell her a story tomorrow. She pulled out his notebook from his pocket and said she wouldn't return it until he promised to tell her stories and give it to her sister. Wan Rong asked her why she stole it from his room and told her to return it to her, or else he would punish her. She denied him and said he only cared about himself all the time, and she was taking revenge on him for not playing with her. While they were arguing, the eldest miss arrived and hugged the second miss. She said it had been a long time since she saw her and she missed her. Her feelings were mutual, and she said she finished greeting their mother and came right over to her. She told her she shouldn't be talking with the liars. Wan Rong thought she kept staring at her with hateful eyes as if he was a trafficker out to fool her sister. She asked Yu Shuang how she was doing at home and if she bullied others. She replied that she had always been good and never bullied anyone, although she got bullied by some bad guy, and looked at Wan Rong. Tao said that it had been a while since he saw the second miss and greeted him. Yu Shuang got scared of Tao and told him to not touch her as he was approaching with his hands. She said that he disgusted her, and told him to not come to her house anymore and left in anger. Eldest miss apologized to Tao for her behavior, to which he said he was not bothered by what kids said. He said he found Yu Shuang very cute, and his sister was also stubborn when she was young. She thanked him very much for looking after her on their way back. He asked her why she said that, as their families were about to merge into one, and she didn't have to be so polite. She said that she was not done thinking about it. Tao said that he had greeted her mother, and she arrived safely, so his mission was over. He left, and the second miss told Wan Rong to wait for her. As night fell at the Xiao mansion, Wan Rong was resting and was excited to meet Chao when he returned. He wondered about Tao. His heart was unpredictable. He had repeatedly angered him, but he didn't get furious, nor did he harm him. He made him feel uncomfortable for some reason. What were the members of the family up to, and was there a possibility that the eldest miss was going to marry him? But her relationship with him didn't seem very good. Furthermore, what made her react brutally towards him? But in any case, Wan Rong was only going to work there for a year, so it wasn't his concern. He had no duty or sympathy for the family. He needed to hurry and finish Uncle Wei's job before returning home to see Chao. Last time, he snuck out to battle with Qing and the others, and he also built a restaurant with the proceeds from selling the painting books. After that, he gave the design idea to Chao and wondered if she decorated it. 1 year from then, he would be an owner of a restaurant, and would be able to live blissfully and worry-free with Chao. Now that Yu Shuang had stopped threatening him and did whatever he said, it was great to tell her stories and get some snacks. He questioned what he was going to do next to deal with the eldest miss. Everyone said that they respected her, but she was a lunatic. In addition, he offended her. He compared her with Xianer, as she was soft, charming, and graceful. Even the unthinkable killer like Qing Xuan was 100 times better than her. He wondered what Qing Xuan was up to, and if she still wanted to kill him. While he was wondering about her furious expressions, she was standing right in front of him. She said she didn't expect to remember her. He asked if she came to kill him. Wan Rong wondered how he should react, and she waited to see what he would say. They both stood silent for a minute, and she told him to say something. Wan Rong panicked and wondered what was wrong with him. She could murder him, and the atmosphere was weird, and questioned if he should be happy or sad. He asked her what she was doing there. She reminded him about the last time when he disrespected her, and asked him if it was over. Wan Rong said it was unintentional, to which she asked about his evil deeds beneath the water. He said that it was just a natural reaction and she could beat him if she wanted. She said that she should have a natural reaction and kill him too. Wan Rong asked why she put so much effort to find him and asked if she liked him. She said it was stupid to like someone like him, and she came for business. She thought about what was wrong with her as she just met him and almost forgot about her business. She asked why he met Xianer privately and how he knew her and the relationship between the two of them. Wan Rong laughed and asked her if she was jealous. She got mad and said she would kill him. She took out a sword and almost hit Wan Rong in the head. She said she was going to spare his life, and next time if he said something offensive, she would definitely kill him. Wan Rong asked her why she wanted to know about his affairs with Xianer and why she had been following him. She replied that an ugly and unethical guy like him was not worth following. She was the one who was asking the questions, and he didn't have the right to ask her back. She asked that he tell her the truth about what the girl and Wan Rong did. Wan Rong said that he wouldn't answer if she kept her bad attitude. It didn't matter who he befriended, and she didn't have to worry about it. She asked if they were actually friends, and he should not get too close to that girl, otherwise he would kill himself because of that. Wan Rong thought that she was annoying, and why did she care about such trivial things that would only get her in trouble? He told her that money couldn't buy happiness, and if he didn't make friends with her, he was supposed to be friends with her. She wondered if he even rejected his kindness and deserved to be killed by that witch. She told him she would kill him again, to which he said she had been saying that all night long. Sneaking into a boy's room in the middle of the night just to threaten to kill him. What an insane thing to do. He only preferred sweet talk, not threats. Just kill him if she wanted. If she doesn't get out of there quickly, she should let him sleep peacefully. As she was about to leave, Wan Rong saw blood coming out from her arm. Wan Rong asked her how she got injured. She told him to not touch her, and why did he even care? He said her blood was dripping to the ground and it had to be wrapped around. She told him to stop pretending to be kind, and she didn't need him to worry about her. Wan Rong said that she would contract an infection and it would develop into an inflammation if she kept letting herself bleed like that. She told him to let it happen and leave her alone, and she wanted it to happen so badly. She asked what was inflammation. Wan Rong explained it meant that her flesh would rot, then in the worst case she would die. If she was lucky, the inflammation would leave a super long and ugly scar. As the candlelight lit her face, Wan Rong thought that kind of beauty could kill a country, and she was beautiful but fierce. Wan Rong prepared the medicine and asked her to take off her coat to see her shoulder. She asked what he wanted to do to disinfect her wound and then apply medicine on it. He just wanted to make sure there would be no scars. She said she would kill him if she found out his bad intentions. She wondered if it was shameful letting him heal her wound like that. Wan Rong took half his bear suit off and showed her a scar on his shoulders. He said that was where she stabbed him when they last met. An uncle gave him a type of sore medicine and asked her to check if there was any scar left. Wan Rong was treating her wound. Qingxuan said the last time they were at the lake, it seemed that she misunderstood him a lot and didn't mean to hurt him. Later, she called a lot of people into the water to look for him, but they didn't find him, and she thought he was dead. She wondered why Wan Rong was weird and why she kept acting so impulsive in front of him. Wan Rong thought he didn't try to provoke anyone. She would be cute if she weren't killing people, and he felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity towards her. It was because she was the second person he knew, ever since he first came to that world. She then read a poem to him in which she questioned him why he had to be a servant despite being talented. He continued his poem, and when finished, replied that there was nothing great about that as it was just a poem, and inquired if she wanted to take him to the academic exams instead of being a servant. But hearing such romantic poetry, she got emotional and amazed by the body's ability as he changed his poem's last sentence into an ambitious one, as it was supposed to be romantically sorrowful. She didn't expect absurd things to happen between them, which all happened because of the kid's rudeness towards her, as no one ever talked to her like that before. Wan Rong was done bandaging her and told her not to worry as he promised her skin would become white again. She asked Wan Rong if he ever thought about becoming a famous official and serving the country. He said to not even convince him to do that, and he didn't like carrying out good deeds. He was not interested in those things and was an ordinary boy. He said he was going to sleep in the next room and she could sleep in his. She said she didn't ask to sleep, to which he said it was up to her, but he suggested she shouldn't run around too much as that would badly affect the wound. He told her to put the sword next to the pillow. She would be able to kill not only him but also every mosquito and bedbug. Wan Rong said he went to Xianer's house that day because she invited him to discuss musical issues. They just chatted casually and didn't do anything other than treating each other like guests. He was by no means related to her. The next day it was clear and sunny. If it weren't for the remaining scent of Qingxuan in his room, Wan Rong would really have thought that her visit was just a dream. After the female devil Xiao Yuruo, Miss Xiao returned. The servants betrayed Wan Rong to work hard again. Miss Xiao asked Wan Rong if there was enough food to eat in the mansion, so why was he tired? She would punish him if he kept being lazy. Wan Rong asked how he could be lazy. It was just that she had trained everyone so well that he was weak in comparison. She said she knew deep down he was dissatisfied. Wan Rong asked how he could be including King Shun and King Yu. She was one of the 250 wisest leaders in the world. The second miss came around and she asked him why he didn't come to play with her instead of wandering around. They both climbed up a tree and found a chicken nest with chicks. She suspected that the eggs had just hatched and wondered where the mother went. Wan Rong asked her to tell her to stop shooting the bird's nest. In fact, there were many ways to have fun, but destruction was not one of them. She could name them and they would be part of her family in the future. He asked what made her so upset. She asked Wan Rong if he was so capable and he could help their family. He said he didn't know what he could do as a normal servant. She said he was clever, not to mention he had a wide range of knowledge. Besides her mother and sister, He only treated her well. She asked if he remembered Tao from that day, and she hated her very much. Wan Rong agreed. He suggested they could make a slingshot hand shoot him next time they met him. She said he proposed to cooperate with their family and the family to join the silk and satin business. Wan Rong thought that there was such a concept in that era. Although forming a strong alliance was good, if any party intended to plot against the others, the alliance would become a game of annexation. He asked that the family was so powerful, and if her family needed to consider partnering with others. She said that in recent years, the silk and satin business of the Tao family had surpassed that of their family, and the family was only second after them. Wan Rong said if her family did want to join then, they'd better refuse. Besides, Tao didn't seem talented, so how could their business surpass hers? She said it was because of his background. His uncle was the official minister of court, and he was her grandfather's student. His father worked in suzhou weaving. Besides, their family business was getting worse by the day. Wan Rong wondered if that was the reason it turned out that they were backed up by suzhou weaving. It was really troublesome. He wanted to be a servant for a year and then run away, not getting caught in their problems. The best way to deal with a child was to promise her first, then wait till she forgot about it. She said that her sister had read the booklet that he made and complimented his talent. Of course she didn't know who made it. She told him to not break his promise and he would come to her room to tell her stories, because she couldn't sleep, as she had been having nightmares lately about her family being destroyed. The next day, Uncle Fu asked Wan Rong to help him with the flowers. He asked if a strong man like him needed help. He said he actually did not, but he hadn't had a girlfriend before, and a kid like him even stayed with a girl overnight. Wan Rong said he never saw that kind of grass before. Fu said it was the pungent-smelling grass that he mentioned last time, and maybe its name was sabua grass. Because he loved to collect all kinds of plants and flowers, he decided to plant some. That kind of grass was very interesting. When it was placed among flowers and plants with strong fragrances such as roses, its pungent smell would get lighter, and the rose's fragrance would also become softer. Wan Rong thought that the whole land of the old man was full of sanhua grass, and they were all species for making essential oils. The combination of sanhua grass and different kinds of plants could neutralize the fragrance of flowers and mix out different species. After combining the species with alcohol and water, he would have perfume, and that was how he was going to get rich. Fu asked what he was up to, and he wondered if he couldn't let him know about that shocking secret, and ran away. At the empty study room that the second miss tricked Wan Rong into, he began mixing stuff. It wasn't easy for him to steal roses from Uncle Fu and crush them into juices. He struggled the whole afternoon to squeeze the sanhua grass out into juice. At last, the fragrance was made, and Wan Rong was happy about achieving that at such a young age. While Wan Rong was wondering about becoming a millionaire, Guo came along and asked what he was doing. He grabbed the bottle from Wan Rong and thought it was wine and drank it. Wan Rong thought it was unsafe, and the bottle was almost empty after Guo drank it. Since he was a famous figure of the family, there were people chasing after him, and if they noticed the fragrance, he would be in trouble. It was important for him to protect the sample and return to his room. He rushed out, and on the way spotted the second miss with her dogs. Wan Rong pulled out a bone to distract the dogs, which made the second miss get dragged along with them. Then he saw a herd of servants, Wang and Uncle Fu, rushing towards him, but he managed to escape them too, and made it to his room. He wondered that he was almost beaten to death by them, but that was the price to pay for being famous. At least he could protect the perfume. After stabilizing the recipe for it, he could earn money with mass production, and he had to keep that a secret till then. Then a figure appeared from behind. Wan Rong prepared a punch, but it was easily blocked by Qing Xuan. She said he was strong, but that was not enough for her to pay attention. He asked what she was doing there. She replied she just wanted to visit and asked what he was holding. She asked why he was being sneaky and what was the fragrance. She told him to take it out, but he said it was a secret gift that he wanted to give someone. She wondered as soon as she smelled. She knew it was rogue, and why did he deliberately buy it for him? She insisted again, and asked him why he wasn't letting her see it since it was definitely not something good. And the more he hid it, the more she wanted to know what it was. She said what she hated the most were sneaky guys and snatched it from his hand. She opened the lid and asked what it was. Wan Rong said it was different from perfume and was probably called a perfume, and asked how she felt about it. She said it was so fragrant, pure, and clean, and she liked it very much. If the scent was a bit lighter, it would have been perfect. Wan Rong thought, although she was a girl who was really scent-conscious, she liked lighter scent. It seemed that the heroine was a girl who paid more attention to the spirit rather than the material. Wan Rong said it was still at the experimental stage, and he hadn't been done with it. If she liked it, then he would give her a lightly scented bottle as soon as he succeeded. Her excitement lived short as Wan Rong asked her why she was there, and was it that she missed him and punched him. Wan Rong said the fists of girls were ruthless, and she should let him know before hitting him. She told him he could use decent words, and every time she saw him, he didn't say anything nice, and if he kept acting like that, she would never come again. Wan Rong started being weird as usual and asked what kind of nice words she wanted to hear. She hit him again and said that time she had something important to tell him. She handed him over a book and reminded him how he always asked her how to jump over the wall. If he could learn what was written in the book, he could do it too. The book was a legendary martial arts book. She said they were all the martial arts skills everyone yearned for. It was inevitable that he had enemies because he was too popular and he better learn some self-defense. It was also a small reward to him for helping her with her wound. Wan Rong asked in excitement if he could master the skill, he would become a heroic martial artist and jump over the eaves and walls. Qing Xuan replied he could, and she would teach him and be his master. Wan Rong got a little too overexcited, and she hit him in the waist, injuring him. He said he was old and his bones were fragile and his waist stiff. He was no longer suitable for learning martial arts and gave the book back to her. She said how he could give up so easily. Besides, he wanted to be famous all over the world, and what was good about being a servant? He asked her if she thought it was not easy for a person to live a happy and peaceful life. They were both in the same world. The world was not actually interesting to him. She told him he had no enthusiasm at all. If he learned some martial arts, even if he could stand out at least in the future, he could still be the protector of beauties or something like that. Wan Rong said he hoped that the beauties would protect him, and she was beautiful and powerful too. She said he was hopeless and gave him something, and wondered if it was the first time she gave someone something and how dare they refuse it. It was anesthetic. Wan Rong asked her why she was giving him such a sinister thing and what kind of person she thought of him to be. She told him it was nonsense and he always had a sinister motive and loved doing bad things, but he was a weak baby. Since he didn't want to learn martial arts, he should keep anesthetics with him. He pissed her off and didn't have the slightest vigilance, and who would save him when he met bad people? Wan Rong ignored her anger and said she would save her. She kicked him out of the room far away. At nightfall, Wan Rong was telling stories to the second miss. She liked the story very much, but said she was worried about the joint venture between her family and others and asked if he had come up with any solutions. She asked what if they went bankrupt and how they would end up. Wan Rong said he didn't want to hide it from her. The joint venture was the evil's ambition and the root of it was hidden, but she must not underestimate it. She asked what to do, to which Wan Rong said she shouldn't worry and he needed time to think about it and told her to sleep. While walking, he wondered if she was actually quite pitiful. She still cared about him so much. That made him a little worried about the situation of her family. But the most important thing was to make perfumes. He would help them when he had lots of money. He heard someone come by. It was the eldest miss who asked why he came out of her sister's room. Wan Rong said he was not going to answer and was not scared of her. She picked up a giant rock to throw at him. Wan Rong suddenly remembered that long ago, Guo told him that for fear that she was going to get bullied when she was away from home, his aunt brought a teacher home to teach the eldest miss martial arts. That teacher even got his cousin a bear to serve as a sparring partner. But unfortunately, after 2 days of practice, the teacher was devoured by that bear. In other words, his cousin's strength rivaled that of a bear. Wan Rong didn't take a word of his seriously until the eldest miss tried to attack him. Wan Rong said that he was just telling Yushuang stories, and if she didn't believe him, she should go ask her. She had caught him and started beating him, and he constantly tried to explain that he didn't do anything unethical to her sister. Wan Rong managed to pull a counterslap and told her to pull herself together. She told him to get his hands off her or he would be dead meat. Wan Rong got furious and started to spank her butt multiple times. He said that she was just as obstinate as a mule, unless she stopped defaming him with such false accusations, and he wouldn't go easy on her again. Also, she was to keep in mind that he was an employee who had signed a labor contract with her family, and not her servant. She flipped over and started bombarding Wan Rong with multiple attacks. Wan Rong said that she had gone too far and told her that he was about to get angry, and once he went nuts, even he got scared of his own anger. They both wrestled until she was on top of Wan Rong and said there was no need and she could see through his evil intentions without any further observations. Wan Rong told her to get those ideas out of her head, and even if she didn't trust him, she shouldn't at least drag her sister's name through the mud like that. The argument got heated. Wan Rong said it was a pity that the family business was taken over by her, and it wouldn't be too surprising if it fell into ruins. She said everyone looked at her family's business with covetous eyes just like him, and he had no right to criticize her. While the argument was getting out of hand, Yushuang came along at the scene and caught them both. The eldest miss tried to explain what was happening, but she started crying. Wan Rong tried to play the victim, and the eldest miss rushed to take Yushuang to her room. Wan Rong had a breather and realized it was careless for him to lose his temper, and he even slapped her buttocks. Back at Yushunag's room, eldest miss said to not believe what Wan Rong had said, and he was a terrible jerk. Yushuang said that he was not a bad person at all. She may not know it, but when she and their mother buried themselves in business affairs, there was no one at home with her, and only he dared to approach her. He would tell a lot of funny stories, read poems, told jokes, and even drew pictures and was the only one willing to play with her. She really liked him, and said he was the best person she ever knew. Eldest Miss got annoyed and wondered how he deceived her brain too. In the meantime, Wan Rong was waiting for dismissal. He wondered if he was going to open a restaurant with Xiao while still continuing to study and develop the new perfume, and if trouble arises, he would go ask Xianer for help. The plan in his mind didn't seem bad at all, and a bright future was ahead of him. A very miserable eldest miss came along, and Wan Rong asked her about her decision. She said he didn't have to go to the study from there on, and he should just help Uncle Fu. Wan Rong thought it was confusing and that all his plans had been ruined. Since the battle with eldest Miss Xiao, Wan Rong's diary at Hua Dynasty had become a lot thicker. Their relationship had turned even worse since that conduct, and she ignored him again. Thus, he had spent all his free time doing research on fragrances. Several days later, Xianer assigned her men to bring some letters over, including one for him and another one for Guo. The letter said, since the day they parted, she had been living in a tournament of separation. She couldn't wait to show him how much she missed him. And Qing Xuan, who dropped by his cabin almost every night, seemed to be very interested in his perfume samples. Of course, she was most curious about the relationship between him and Xianer. Xianer asked Wan Rong if he had no choice but to do something for the sake of the people closest to him, even though it may hurt others. What did he think? He replied it was for the sake of his family. He would have to do it regardless of the fact that it may hurt innocent people. Only flesh and blood were the most important in the world. Either money or power was just ephemeral, like clouds floating in the sky. When one is on the verge of death, they would realize only their flesh would be willing to be with them till the end. She got really touched by what he said. His words had woken her out of daydreams, and he was her guiding star. She said she would give him many self-defense martial art books. Wan Rong wondered why Qing Xuan was always curious about her, and how he knew she was a wholesaler of martial art tricks. Judging from those martial art tricks and Qing Xuan's attitude, Xianer was not as simple as she appeared to be. But since she was sincere to him, he would treat her the same in return for her kindness, and thus decided to keep it a secret for her. Then he would ask her to help him find 2 singers to perform at the opening ceremony of his new restaurant. Everything went on as usual, except that little Yu Shuang who pestered him almost every day to ask about the joint business venture. In the following days, she didn't bother him anymore. But then, Xianer sent her men to call him every day. In the morning, he entertained himself with her songs. In the evening, he chatted with Qing Xuan about military affairs, and that lasted for a while. He realized she was a weird person, and was really interested in fights and battles, and she always put on a surprised face like he would be beheaded for his words. The restaurant was gradually being completed. Every day, he woke up in the embrace of beautiful girls. The perfume production was also smooth sailing. The days of working as a servant also passed with tranquility. Such pleasant days made him wonder if he was dreaming. Until one day, someone woke him up from a nap and said Lady Xiao was going to discipline the second miss by spanking, and he should go save her. Lady Xiao stood with a strong glare on her face in a hall where 3 men, Master Xiao's cousin, Second Master Xiao Nimei, Ninth Master Xiao Tudu, and Third Master Xiao Luobo were sitting. Luobo asked her what was wrong, and urged her to quickly handle things. They still had to decide the joint venture between the 3 families, Xiao, He, and Tao. Second Miss, surrounded by guards with sticks, was there. Eldest Miss asked her mother to forgive Yu Shuang as she was young and didn't understand anything. She was concerned about the family's future. That was why she burst into the conference room. If she was punished just for that, how could she care about important things in the house in the future? No matter how young she was a family member and had the right to know what was going on in the house. Nimi asked Yuruo why she didn't learn to speak the truth, to be tough and disciplined at such an early age, but instead learned a lot about a woman's weakness. Women couldn't manage houses, he said. The conference room was the most significant area in the family, and no one was ever allowed to enter on their own. Violation shall be penalized by the regulations established by the Xiao family's ancestors, and what other reason did they have? The other 2 men agreed and said Yu Shuang was a child, and yet she dared to oppose her elders. They asked Lady Xiao that she was the one in charge of managing the family and how she educated her children. How could she persuade people so to save the family while pampering her kids like that? Yuruo tried to speak, but the lady silenced her and asked her how she would manage the family in the future if she kept doing bad things with goodwill and easily violating the regulations set by her ancestors. Yu Shuang broke into the conference room improperly, and according to the law established by their ancestors, she was to be harshly punished with wax. Yuruo begged her mother to not do it as she was still young, and if she really wanted to hit her, she would be ready to take them for her sister. The elders said that Yuruo was worthy of being beaten to death, and up till then, she always doubted elders' decisions talking nonsense about joint ventures. Being beaten without repentance was also insulting to adults. They asked Lady Xiao how she could educate her children at home. If they had stayed at their house, children like them would have been beaten to death long ago. Nimei told the lady the way she and Yuruo managed situations like those. It appeared that he understood why the family had come to that point. Now that the Xiao family was slowly dying, she should just accept the cooperation. Everyone's lives would be rich, free of stress just like it used to be. And she was still hesitant about it, and even let a child speak, wanting to force others like them to sacrifice a better life to pay for her decision based on what? Although, following her husband's death, she became the owner of the family, she was not to forget that they were the same family, and the Xiao family's property were theirs as well. If she didn't think of a solution, and didn't even accept the corporation, she only wanted to push others to death. They continued to fire insults at the lady and the two girls. Yuruo wondered why it became like that and where were those nice uncles around when the family was prosperous. Enjoying themselves is more important than the future of the family. Wasn't there a single person who could be trusted to side with them? Lady Xiao apologized to Yuruo in her thoughts for letting her see the negative side of people when facing the rewards and obstacles. That was the evilest face of the family. Although the ultimate power in the family was in their hands, they still needed to work hard to protect the family's inheritance. But because of limited resources, a lot of supplies or sales had to rely on the family's distant relatives to participate and compete. They were used to living in luxury, and didn't even think about trying from the beginning again. As long as they cooperated, their family got 4 parts of the income from the cooperation, so they had money to share and didn't need to work. The day was not a meeting to discuss anything, but to force them to make a decision they wanted. Accept the cooperation, the future was unknown, but rejecting those people, their betrayal would make the family fall faster. They were in a dilemma. It was all because they didn't have a man in their house. Girls had a lot of inconveniences. There was not a single man to protect them or the house. Because of that, Lady Xiao considered marrying Yuruo to Tao Dongchen, but he was involved in the joint venture, and she didn't like him. She apologized to Yushinag, and if she didn't punish her harshly, then she would have to answer to them. They still had a long way to go, and they could use the incident to their advantage and keep the house. Lady Xiao gave the order to hit Yu Shuang as she cried for help from Wan Rong. He arrived with sheer anger in his eyes and said he would kill anybody who attempted to touch a single hair strand of Yu Shuang. He moved the guards out of the way and gave comfort to Yu Shuang. The elders told him he was being arrogant while being just a servant. Wan Rong asked them where they came from and why they were barking like dogs. Lady Xiao asked him what he was doing, and it was disrespectful. Wan Rong thought the lady was gorgeous from afar, but didn't realize she could be so cruel as to strike her own kid. He asked her what she wanted. Lady Xiao wondered if he was Lin, the legendary contract servant, and how dare he come there to mess things up. She told him that Yu Shuang stormed into the conference room by herself and talked disrespectfully, so that was her punishment. Wan Rong said she was still a kid, and she was the mother, the most important support in her life, and what did she want with her bossy behavior? He said that was the reason the family wanted to consider the joint ventures. The elders said even a mere servant dared to meddle in the joint venture. It was enough, and asked the lady what kind of servants they raised in the family, and the 2 daughters dared to get close to him. Wan Rong got furious and kicked Nimi in the face, which shook everyone. The guards tried to hold Wan Rong down and started to beat him. Yu Shuang tried to stop them and burst out, saying she was planning to live with Wan Rong as he was her fiancé. Everyone in the room was shaken to the bone, and Wan Rong panicked, asking everyone to calm down as things were not like that. Nimei said that was unruly, and Yu Shuang, as a lady of a distinguished family, wanted to get married to a low-class servant like him at such a young age. She was shameless, and her act was deprived of female virtues. Wan Rong hit him again and told him to go to hell and that it was him who was spouting nonsense. Lady Xiao asked the guards to stop him, and they brought the dogs out, but the dogs, knowing it wouldn't end well, didn't do anything, to which Nimei threatened the guards. If they didn't stop him, they would be sold to places where there was hard labor. They all attacked Wan Rong at once, and Nimei ordered them to beat him with sticks to death. Wan Rong managed to get out of the crowd and said that was just a warm-up for him. He said it was a shame that they didn't act like adults. If they wanted to punish him, then they should go ahead and do whatever they wanted when he finished talking. He asked Lady Xiao who established the violent rules and when. She replied to their ancestors when they were alive and asked if he dared to go against them. He asked them why her family's ancestors set those rules. She said they did it to maintain the stability and the prosperity of the family, and to prevent any malicious intent against their family. Wan Rong asked if Yu Shuang looked like a girl with ulterior motives, and why the one who prioritized the safety of the Xiao family had to be punished. It was ridiculous, and the ancestors of the family were really going to get pissed off by her if they were alive. In his opinion, the real bad guys should be the elders, to which they said that they were the head of the family and participated in the family business for many years. Wan Rong asked them then why they wanted to join the business alliance, and didn't they think that they were too eager for that joint venture? He didn't know if they ever thought about it. If those people were the so-called backbone of the family's management force, then the family's decline would be directed to their failure. And if they were that capable, then why was the family in such a state? If the whole family was determined to get back up after the failure, it meant that all of them had to face their own failure to change the current situation. But they weren't that brave or capable. After joining the venture, those guys could lazily enjoy life without worrying about anything or facing any hardship. If things were not what Wan Rong said, then they could show him ways to change the current situation, and then weigh the pros and cons. If that was the case, he was sure they were not shrinking from their responsibilities. But Yu Shuang, the one who saw the danger in the venture, got blamed for nothing. So corrupt from the inside out, the family was such a tragedy. When the ancestors of the family were alive and they created such a prosperous business, Wan Rong was sure back at that time they were not irresolute like them. They would definitely be standing in front of Yu Shuang and telling them all how stupid they are. All of what they could say was about the ancestors' ways. They would abolish all of those useless rules. He asked if the family's existence was just for their sake, and if that was the case, it was better to destroy it. Nime told him to stop talking nonsense, and it was their family's affairs anyway, and outsiders like him shouldn't care. While they started to argue again, Lady Xiao stopped them and said she had made up her mind. She said that they would discuss the joint venture later, and asked Wan Rong to take Yu Shuang and Yuruo and wait for her in the study room. She asked the elders to go back to their place, to which they argued why she was doing it. She said it was because she was the one in charge, and she couldn't find a way to revive the family, but she sure knew how to destroy it, so they should stop testing her patience and go back. Back at the study room, Lady Xiao thanked him for saving Yu Shuang and said what happened was unexpected, and she also thanked him for caring about the family. Wan Rong said there was no need to thank him, and he was not interested in the rise or fall of her family. He just wanted to do it because Yu Shuang trusted her. Yu Shuang said it was not trust but love, and she would be his wife. Wan Rong told her to stop talking nonsense if she didn't understand and asked her to go outside and play with the generals. Lady Xiao told her that she was too young to get married, and it was not right to call someone else her husband. She told Wan Rong that she was still young, so she hoped he wasn't going to take it seriously. He said not to worry, and he considered her as a little sister. Yuruo said in anger how their family could get through the difficult time. Lady Xiao asked her why she was so hostile towards him, to which she said she should not worry. Wan Rong said he would definitely do what Yu Shuang asked him to. He said that the more conceited they were, the more short-sighted they became. In the joint venture, they saw the benefits, but failed to see the danger. He suspected that Tao Dongchen had proposed a very tempting offer to make their family put down the pride and join the alliance. Wan Rong asked if he had given a great number of shares to their family. Lady Xiao asked how he knew about that. He asked her how many shares did he give, to which she said 40%. Wan Rong said they were decent, and he would consider it too, but he asked why they thought the family could gain that amount, and the other two families were willing to split the remaining 60%. Lady Xiao said they thought that because he was interested in Yuruo. Wan Rong asked after establishing that, what were their roles? Their family took over the silk spinning workshop, the He family was responsible for the delivery, and the Tao family was in charge of sales. He would pretend to be generous by giving 40% to the Xiao family. As long as he could win their favor, once they got married, 40% of the shares could be regained with little to no effort. He asked Yuruo if she liked Tao, and it was the core of the matter. She said she didn't know. In fact, she also thought that he approached her in order to cooperate with them, but they couldn't think of anything wrong with joining the alliance. Suppose that if they didn't do anything much, they would still get 40% out of the income. It didn't matter whether she liked him or not. As long as she could save her family, she could sacrifice herself. Wan Rong said that Tao would give them 40% of the shares, so he wouldn't be afraid of her canceling the marriage. Because if she cooperated with him, her family's transportation sales would be taken over by the other two families. To lose sales was to lose the most important factor in doing business. Until then, it was not up to others to decide what to do at the time. If the joint venture was established within 3 years, the family would not have to worry about making enough money to accommodate basic needs. But after that, there would be no Xiao family. At that time, Yuruo could only be a compliant wife in the Tao family. Without the Xiao family's support, what she did in the Tao family would be a big problem. There was something wrong with the division of the three families' roles, and it was not about the mutual benefits. It was a game of annexation. Yuruo asked her how they could get through that difficult time, and if Wan Rong had any solutions, to which he said he did, but taunted her about why he should tell her. She asked him why he wasn't telling her. Wan Rong told her that she said he was a bad person and that he was an outsider, and then she asked him to make suggestions for the family. Did her attitude look like that of a person who was begging? Her attitude towards others was too patronizing. He didn't owe the Xiao family anything, and he was Yu Shuang's friend, not hers, and left. Lady Xiao told Yuruo that she didn't expect that he would see through all of it so thoroughly. It seemed that Wan Rong was really not an ordinary person. There was even a person like that in the family. Yuruo said he didn't like to talk to her. Lady Xiao said she was secluded in her room, so she had to try hard for those matters. She told Yuruo not to worry, as she would definitely persuade him into helping their family. For the sake of their family, she would definitely be able to make it. It was such a heavy burden on her shoulders, and she didn't know how long they could hold on in that difficulty. Yuruo wondered, for the sake of the family, she would have to reveal it, and she wouldn't let the family collapse in her hands. The day after, Wan Rong was asked if a distinguished visitor came, and he had to serve them. It was Luo Yuan, and Wan Rong asked him what he was doing at the mansion, and they both seemed to get along like they were old pals. Yuruo thought how Wan Rong was so casual with him, given the fact that he was the governor's young master. He was not an ordinary person, and she had to pay attention to him. Yuruo said since Wan Rong and Luo were on good terms, she hoped he would serve him well and asked her to leave. Luo told Wan Rong that he was outstanding in Miao Yufeng last time, and he gave Cheng Ruinian a huge humiliation. He asked if he bothered him after all those things. Wan Rong said that he was a servant there, and he couldn't get out of the mansion, so how would he find him? Luo said to forget it and told him he was going to take him to a fantastic place. At Chengnan, an immortal food restaurant, Luo asked him if that was the store he ran. He said he happened to pass the store, and it was incredible at first glance. The store had a clear, novel layout. He never thought that a store could be decorated in such a way, and when it opens, business would be booming. Wan Rong thanked him and said if he hadn't brought him out, he would never have had the chance to see that store. Luo asked him what the stage was for. Wan Rong said it was for singing folk songs. He asked him if he remembered the girl who sang folk songs in Miao Yufeng. After he trained her, she would come there to sing. Luo said it was amazing to be able to listen to small songs while eating, an elegant and simple combination that would definitely become popular. Luo then asked what the small rooms were for. Wan Rong replied that if guests were willing to spend more to differentiate themselves from others and enjoy a better dining atmosphere, they could come to those private rooms upstairs. The further up they went, the fewer the rooms, the more elegant it was, and there was only one table at the top floor. Wan Rong told him that he could visit the place at will, and he shouldn't treat himself as an outsider. Luo admired Wan Rong and praised him for what he accomplished. Qiao came along, thinking that some strangers entered the restaurant until she noticed Wan Rong. Wan Rong asked her how she was doing and why she was getting thinner after such a long time. Xing said they were running out of money for renovating the store, so Qiao was afraid that he would be worried, so she didn't tell her that to save money, she ate steamed buns every day. Wan Rong hugged Qiao and apologized to her, to which she said it was all right to be a little thinner. Wan Rong said he would never forget what she had done for him, and she was the most precious treasure he had in life. He swore that if he betrayed her in that life, he would be struck to death by lightning. She asked him not to swear, and she realized long ago that he was no ordinary person. She wouldn't regret no matter how he treated her in the future because he was her whole world. Everyone was looking at them both, and a lady arrived as well. Qiao realized everyone was looking, so she told Wan Rong to introduce that lady. Her name was Ning. Ning said to Wan Rong that was the first time they met, and she often heard Qiao talking about him and how he was shocking and extraordinary. They all sat down to eat, and everyone appreciated Qiao's cooking. Luo asked Wan Rong if he said only talented people could go to the private room on the top floor, so would he check if they were talented or not. Wan Rong explained she had his own way. He took out a red card and said that was the first couplet of several small couplets which were spread across their hometown. If there was someone who could give the second couplet, he would invite them to the top floor. Ning wondered if those couplets were difficult, not to mention the latter three couplets. The first one was just unsolvable. The 5 elements of gold, wood, water, fire, and earth were implied in the pairing. It seemed simple, but in fact was extremely difficult. She wondered who Wan Rong was. Wan Rong said if they were not capable, then they could always pay money to go to the top as well. They all did a toast for the sake of an immortal food restaurant. After that, Luo kept insisting on Wan Rong to let him join Hongxing. Wan Rong said he was the son of the governor, and he could do that. Luo told him that he said the philosophy was to protect the weak and prevent violence, and his father would definitely support him. Wan Rong wondered if he seemed like a good person out of a stinky family, but he was crazy. He said to Luo that they were brothers from that point on and they would live and die together. Meanwhile, a crowd approached them, and Xing pointed out that it was the Black Dragon Guild, and there was also Cheng Ruinian. There was also a bald guy, Wu Zhenghu, the leader of the Black Guild, and the lackey of Cheng. Wan Rong asked Xiao Yuan that he was not in harmony with Cheng, and maybe it was just for Xianer. He said it had something to do with the grievances between their two fathers. Although his father committed corruption and disobeyed the law, he was directly in charge of the faction of Duke Cheng. His father reported his father's bad deeds to Prince Cheng, but his father was always covered up by Duke Cheng, so they fought just like cats and dogs. Wan Rong pointed out that they had seen them and asked Luo to go and greet them. Luo said hello to Ruinian, and he asked Luo that he seemed excited and why didn't he go around Miao Yufang. He asked why Luo was not walking around with talented people, but instead getting in touch with some inferior people. Wan Rong said to him that he was simply jealous, and Luo would rather hang around with lowly people than him, and taunted Ruinian. He got angry, but his people pulled him back and they left. In the afternoon, Wan Rong said to Luo if Cheng dared to offend them, they must show them mercy, and when necessary, they could strike first. Wan Rong spotted Yuruo and wondered what she was doing in front of his room. Wan Rong felt dizzy and thought she was the one who made up all the nonsense, and she even laughed about it. He asked her what brought her to his cabin. She said she considered what Wan Rong said before to be very reasonable and asked if he had a way to resolve the crisis of their family. Wan Rong bluntly said that he had none. She said he was lying, and last time he said he had a way. He said he was bluffing, and he couldn't believe she fell for it. He taunted her and asked her even the ever-so-talented Miss Xiao didn't have a solution, so how could a mere outsider like him know anything? She got upset and said she didn't have to beg for anything and left. Wan Rong thought he was right that in her heart she didn't want to do it. Then who was he to care? Outside, Yuruo thought how evil a person can be, but for the sake of her family, she still needed to ask him nicely. She called out for him and said she would talk seriously. Wan Rong said he was tired and asked her to come by later. Wan Rong pretended to snore and wondered if she was quite smart, and her looks were good, but why was her personality so annoying? With that super competitiveness of hers, how could she manage the household? He decided that he would give her a lesson in place of her parents, and he would teach her what true evil was. One of the servants told Yuruo that earlier, Tao sent someone to deliver an invitation to her again. He asked her to come and discuss the joint ventures 2 days later. Yuruo thought that she was postponing the joint venture time and time again, so she was afraid that the Tao family was losing their patience. If she didn't figure out any practical solution, she would be in trouble. But why did such a person like Wan Rong decide the fate of the family? He was ugly and drove people crazy, and maybe it was punishment for her. At the family's accounting room, Yuruo received the month's accounts which were still going down. The elders asked about the previous adjustment plan, to which she said it had little effect. They said thanks to the workshop in Suzhou, the Tao family's cloth production was in full swing, and their products were also very popular. Even if they didn't cooperate with them, they were still on the rise, and they could be surpassing the Xiao family any day. And now that they proposed a joint venture, it was clear that they were pressuring them. Yuruo said that they couldn't pin their hopes on the joint venture and let them devour the family whole. She asked if they fought them in terms of price, if they kept lowering it down, to which the elder said it was impossible.
Don't forget to like and comment for the next part. Join our Discord for the name of the book and subscribe for more videos from us.